What is the problem with Roadhog? Okay, first off, the game is not burning. It's not the end of the world that Roadhog is relevant for a short period of time, but it feels like every single time that this character has above like a 45% win rate, the entire world flips out. Now, we've done discussions like this with both Sombra and Mercy, discussing Sombra's problem with bans and Mercy's problems with bans, respectively. However, today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, because the purpose of both of those discussions was asking what common ground can we find with both Sombra and Mercy within the community for people that both play Sombra Mercy and hate Sombra Mercy, and we're going to be doing the same with Roadhog. But not only are we going to be discussing what Roadhog needs, but also discussing why people hate him so much and what things probably should change. This isn't just a hit piece on Roadhog. There are many folks, even me, that would be happy at times if Roadhog was just in the gutter rather than have a high win rate, because he just makes the game miserable. But if we wanted to do that, the answer is really simple. Just leave him in the gutter. Today's piece is going to be more about if Roadhog were to be a functional tank with a relatively decent win rate, what would that look like from both people that play Hog and people that hate Hog? As I said, first off, the game isn't burning. Just because Roadhog is relevant here, it doesn't mean that everything, the world's ending here. The game is in a good state right now. This is just more of a question of, okay, people are still frustrated with Roadhog right now, so what can we do about that? And I always like leading discussions like these because I think they're more productive than just sitting there and debating. I like having different voices in here give their 2 cents. And today we're going to be doing that without really a lot of debate. I will be pushing back on a lot of these guests here and there, but I kind of want them to just kind of give their full demonstration of what they think about Roadhog. So let's just go ahead and start off with a provocative comment that boils up my opinion of Roadhog. Roadhog is not a tank. Or, if he is a tank, Roadhog is the most team-reliant tank in the game. And so what really is a tank? Tank is something that creates and actively holds space for longer periods of time. Really, every character in Overwatch has the capability of creating and holding space, but tanks do it for much longer periods of time and with much more consistency. They are either perceived as a threat, so they get attention, they have a big burst of pressure on timing of their cooldowns, or just consistent output of pressure over long periods of time. And Roadhog kind of has 2 problems with that. First off, his threat through his hook is very much pass or fail, more so than any other tank. His ability to directly create threat, directly create space, is more, do you hit the hook or do you not hit the hook? And if you compare that to literally every other tank in the pool, none of them are as inconsistent as Roadhog with that mechanical pass or fail check. And in addition to that, to consistently threaten with hook by actually hitting the hook, it's not just even a mechanical pass or fail check. You're actually, more often than not, reliant on somebody else on your team, usually DPS, setting up the opportunity for pressure. It's like Roadhog is the off tank that just can't create space on his own anymore, and you're relying on your DPS to tank for you so that you're more likely to hit hooks. Because the thing with hook is it's not just a mechanical pass or fail check. It's a projectile that is reliant and is more consistent to land on somebody not denying that hook. And that requires distractions. That requires somebody else taking the initiative that opens up opportunities for you to hit hook. And that's the problem with Roadhog. We're gonna go into a lot of other problems with Roadhog, but the biggest, most important problem with Roadhog is he does not have a consistent cycle by which to maintain and apply pressure. Your mechanic check requires you to have enemies that are not giving you respect. Other tanks require follow-up. That's just how tanking works. You require your teammates to follow up off of what you're doing. However, Roadhog requires setup, and he's really the only tank in the game that needs setup. This is honestly why, like, for those of you guys that are 6v6ers, this is why he works a lot better in 6v6. He's still really toxic in 6v6, but he has another tank to create those opportunities and distractions for you, even if it's just another warm body, because he follows up off of his tank's pressure elsewhere. The problem in 6v6 is that the way that he creates pressure is still very feast or famine. He's still very frustrating to get to. We'll talk about that later. For me, I think boiling down hook as something that punishes bad positioning or lazy plays is just lazy thinking. He just punishes you simply for peeking him. And the problem with that is then you have situations where everybody's giving full attention to Roadhog and you have a character that is incapable of creating space, especially if the map doesn't allow him to. Or you have a character that feels completely unstoppable because people are not respecting him enough. There's just no in-between with Roadhog. There's no consistency with Roadhog, and that's why he fails to fit in the tank category for me. Now, crucially here, we're not going to be giving specific fixes immediately. These are going to be more spiritual thoughts. Like, in my opinion, Hog should spiritually look like this, and this should be the goal with Roadhog. And so we'll have some ideas maybe thrown around a little bit towards the end. Maybe some of our guests will go into more detail, but let's start off with Hog's inability to consistently create space. So one of the important points, and maybe some of you guys were screaming at your screen over, is like, wait, the threat of Hook is creating space, right? Like the fact that you could get Hook isn't that enough. Like, if a lot of other tanks have threat as a method of creating space. Hazard can jump in and slash you. Wrecking Ball can engage on you and slam on you. Doomfist can punch you. But the difference between Roadhog and a lot of those other tanks is that if they don't get the perfect engage, if they don't get the perfect slash, the perfect AoE punch, they can still use those abilities as methods of directly creating space. Threat of Hook is space, but as we mentioned before, if a large percentage of your threat cycle is psychological, then it's not going to work. You need something that's concrete, that's actually workable, even if they're giving you attention. You can't fully deny a Wrecking Ball by just looking at him. You can't fully deny a Hazard by just looking at him. You can't fully deny a Doomfist by just not feeding his punch. They still will be able to consistently create space, just maybe not as much. There has to be a direct threat that cannot be consistently denied. Now, the scale of how much value they get depends on how well you outplay them. Like if a Brigitte hits a whip shot and a ball, that really hurts his ability to hit space, but she can't shut him down completely. Now, one thing here is that his alternate fire definitely helps here. Alt fire is the reversion of the reversion to where he can actually apply fairly consistent pressure without hitting every single hook. But the irony here is that alt fire in its current implementation, which it's still feast or famine. So even the more consistent pressure of alt fire since they reverted it, which I'm a fan of, by the way, love that, it's still feast or famine, right? You have an ability, by the way, like like this thing literally can one-shot Reapers, I'm fairly certain, no? Like we tested this, I think. If you get the spacing correct, okay, that's not correct. You guys didn't see that. You could just straight up. Am I spacing this wrong, chat? This is awkward. Frick, did I get it wrong? I swear we were one-shotting Reapers with this. Oh, it's the perk. Scrap that. Frick, it's been exploding. Man. We're too close. Okay. This is so. Wait. I mean, the fact that you can one-shot Reapers with one alt fire, I mean, that's not going to be happening almost ever, but there's so much feast or famine depending on the situation, whereas if you get the range wrong, it doesn't work, it doesn't do much damage. So even with his alt fire, which is more consistent pressure output, kind of like Sigma poke, it's not nearly as consistent as Sigma's poke even. Roadhog has a hard time creating space, is essentially what I'm saying, through a consistent mitigation cycle. Walking forward with shield, rolling, jumping to an off angle, either through having some form of mobility, even Malga, right, can consistently create space by running to a side angle, right? Either through mobility or the ability to move forward while effectively mitigating is simply healing a consistent enough form of mitigation. Is this, like walking through a choke as Roadhog, is this actually a consistent way of taking space with Roadhog? And if you've ever played Roadhog in many circumstances, you could probably guess the answer is no. And that's a huge problem. Now, moving off of that here, second problem, lack of death as a consistent punishment in many circumstances. So the whole concept of Roadhog as a kind of a fish and then heal yourself playstyle means that he's not often directly punished with death for his failure. And what this does is this provides a lot of inconsistent feedback on your performance and why he's the definition of a selfish character. Supports, DPS, tanks that lose games with a heavy bias of I lived, didn't I, are arguably really not healthy for the game. There's a couple other ones, I think Life Hoover at times could be a little bit like this, but they're very unsatisfying to play versus you don't get rewarded with the kill when you outplay the character, and the lack of risk for the person playing the character is also deeply unsatisfying and muddled. In other words, you could go a game with 30% hook accuracy, but if you hit the hooks that matter, you can win the game. But they can also go with a game with 30% hook accuracy, and because you didn't hit the few important hooks, just because you went 25-1, you could still be the reason that your team lost. Because, oh, I didn't die. Yeah, but you didn't take any risk. You weren't able to create enough pressure, not be able to create enough space. Lack of death isn't a good feedback, and Roadhog, more often than most characters in the entire game, certainly in the top 2 or 3, is able to avoid death based off of his own selection. He can just choose to not take risks if he doesn't want to, and that doesn't really provide a very clear gameplay loop about, oh, I did something wrong. So it's not just bad playing into Roadhog. Sometimes you literally can't kill the guy and it's like, bro, I outplayed him, and he just walks away. That sucks. But then also it doesn't really feel good to play as Roadhog because some of the better characters of the game, we're talking about Tracers, we're talking about Lucios, we're talking about Ashes, we're talking about Winstons. When you make mistakes, you get punished by dying for those mistakes more often than not. And so it creates this whole discourse of like, was it taking too much risk? Could I have done that but just played it better? That's kind of how the game should work. You die for your mistakes. You don't just get indirect value. I think leaning completely into indirect value for a character, indirect feedback, is really unhealthy. And the irony here is that we're talking about like how he never dies, I never dies. But in some circumstances, Roadhog's weaknesses are so pronounced, he's actually completely incompetent as a character and dies off of cooldown. So he swings wildly from being incredibly unkillable if you're not running the right composition and the right map to being completely dead off of cooldown. I don't know how much professional Overwatch you guys have seen. We've seen Roadhog a couple of times recently. I have a distinct memory. I don't remember, was it, I believe it was Korean OWCS a few weeks ago when we saw Roadhog versus Orisa in Lijiang Tower Control Center. It just literally could do nothing. Like, no angles, no space, no nothing. Face smashed in, literally nothing that the guy could do. Just impossible. And I have my own little conjecture here, my own little anecdote here, where I don't know if it was on stream, but like this past week or the week before, I made the mistake of not banning Roadhog because my guy picked Roadhog and favorited Roadhog. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be a good team player. We're playing attack first point on Eikevald, and they're playing Sigma, Hanzo, Zen or something, and he couldn't do anything. He could not get out of the choke. My supports, even my supports DPS, we were creating so many angles, trying to get this guy out of the choke, and he could not walk out of the choke. Right, you've even seen some Roadhog with Symmetra in OWCS, right? Like, he could not take space versus that, because his walk forward, he just got rocked and then died, or naded, or discorded, and every single time. There was nowhere to go. And in that situation, you have to wonder, it's like, what is a Roadhog supposed to do? So this guy literally, I think he had 4 or 5 deaths in like 2 or 3 minutes, dying first every single time. Now, again, I'm not saying that, oh, I had that one bad experience with Roadhog, therefore it's a common, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like, there are certain circumstances with Roadhog when you are incapable of actually creating space. You're incapable of actually doing anything. And yet there are other circumstances when it's almost impossible to die. It's this big feast of famine, lack of death, or death comes too easily. Moving to point number 3 here. And this is team reliance. Now, we've touched on all of these points with my summation a few minutes ago, and so I'm just delving more deeply into each of these points before we move on. So we're going to talk about that team reliance we talked about. How many of you guys heard Roadhog is the selfish character? You pick the character when you don't trust your team. You swap to Roadhog when you're trying to carry. You guys heard that? You can't trust your teammates, so you pick Roadhog, right? I mean, that's been said for years and years and years and years and years. My argument, I actually find him to be, as you can probably guess where I'm going with this, one of the most team-reliant characters in the entire game in many regards. He is unbelievably team-reliant on multiple factors. He is reliant on his team's heroes. Oftentimes you need Kiriko cleanse. I mean, the one time that I think Roadhog was ranked meta way back earlier in Overwatch 2, Kiriko meta, right? He needed the cleanse. He really benefits a lot from having very angle-heavy DPS. So DPS that are very good at taking space aggressively to set up those hook angles on main, creating opportunities for him. He's relying on enemy characters. There are several counters which create this weird dynamic where he can be carried through the ban phase if he has cooperative teammates. Like, do you want to win? I'm favoriting Roadhog. Do you want to win? So you better ban my guys. If you don't ban with me, then you're going to throw your own game. So you're like, dude, this is why people ban Roadhog, even if they have him on team, because I don't want to play this game with you. I don't want to have to ban Orisa. I don't want to have to ban Ana. I don't want to have to ban Freya. Situationally, Hanzo, Sigma, Zenyatta, the list goes on. Even on maps that are really broad, I don't want to have to feel like I have to ban Tracer, Genji, and Flashpoint because my Roadhog's not going to be able to do anything, right? And then it goes even more than that, right? Oh, frick, unlucky. We talked about that Eikevald example, right? Oh no, I have a Roadhog OTP on an escort attack, walking through a choke. Guess I can't play the game now. Congested maps. You have to deal with problematic characters. If I get Roadhog and Eikevald, I have to ban Sigma or Ana. There's not enough space for him to get out of the choke. I have to ban Freya. There's way too much verticality for her to play. Ranged maps, you got to deal with the snipers. Congested maps, you got to deal with the brawl tanks. You have to deal with the problematic characters. And so he's basically reliant on his teammates, the enemy team, the map, to be a perfect little ecosystem where everything works out perfectly for him. And the funny thing about this is he's also abusive of the ban system because he is a character that is so heavily carried by the bans that if you get cooperative teammates, you will boost yourself SR more so than almost any other character in the game. I mean, even characters like Malga, Ramacha, that have definitely clear counters for sure. I think Roadhog even trumps them. So you're left in the situation where it's like, do I want to ban and help my Roadhog because I want to win this game? Or do I just, frick this Roadhog? I don't want to have to play everything. He's unbelievably reliant on those situations to work out. And finally, we're going to talk about the rework, okay? Because I think this one's important, because this is why we keep having this conversation. And I don't just want to talk about the rework on a perception of, oh, it failed, and this is why. I want to talk about why the rework failed, and this is why, and what we need to do in our future reworks of this character. So let's start with what it actually did. Obviously, you guys remember the pig pin, the extra steps to the one shot, so that people complain less about the one shot because it takes more time for him to set it up. But adding extra steps, listen carefully. Honestly, if you guys haven't been paying attention to anything else, this is the most important thing. Adding extra steps to the one shot does not address the issue. It did not make him more punishable or more consistent. It didn't allow for more consistency in taking space. In fact, it introduced even more inconsistency. It's a one-sided approach, making the one shot more effortful when it was actually needed. Like actually, back when you actually had a trap hook, right? That's not really the problem here. It's not the ease of the one shot. In fact, having an easier one shot makes the character more consistent, which makes him ironically less problematic to play with. Obviously, playing against is a whole other story. But guess what? It's the inconsistent output and the lack of counterplay. And with Pigpen and the rework, it was still there. Nothing changed. Either broken trap, as in it was broken, like easy to shoot, zero utility because you couldn't throw it anywhere. You threw it at your feet. That was basically it. And so it just, if somebody shot the trap, well, GG's, go next. Now I can't one shot anymore, right? So incredibly inconsistent value with trap. Or you would put it behind a wall where it was actually impossible to deal with. It didn't deal with the problem at all. He still does the one shot thing. Or if you, for whatever reason, you can get an angle on his trap, then he can't do anything. A vast portion of his kit is gone, and this became even more important when he got the perk that gave him vape resource off of trap. Because you shoot the trap, and there goes half his vape resource, almost. It just made the bad cancer matchups for Roadhog to play into even worse, right? It didn't help him versus Arrested that much. It didn't help him versus that. It didn't help him versus that. However, it made the matchups that feel terrible to go into Roadhog even worse. All my days playing Reinhardt into that version of Roadhog was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Just felt miserable. Permanently CC, permanently hooked. Impossible to punish. It didn't make him playing him any better. It didn't make playing him any better. And it ironically took away the consistent, quote-unquote, pressure of his alt fire. Because his weapon reversion, they changed how his weapon worked, meant that his ranged pressure was really, really bad. So if you didn't hit your hook, you didn't have the fallback of, oh, I can put a little bit of pressure from range. You didn't have anything. So it actually made him worse, more inconsistent, and it demonstrates exactly why it's important for you to understand what the root problem is. The inconsistency of his output, the feast or famine, and the inability to consistently create space. Pigpen and taking away alt fire did nothing to address that problem and made the problem worse. And so this is why sometimes there's situations when I disagree with developers on the philosophy behind what some changes were being made. But then there's other times when I think the problem is being completely misunderstood, and this was one of those moments. And so this is why it's so important when people talk about, let's give a wind up to Roadhog hook, let's do this, let's do that, let's make vape a cooldown. Everything stops until we make this character's output and consistency with taking space more consistent. If you don't address that, nothing else you do matters. I'm not saying that those are bad ideas, but they are bad ideas within a vacuum. It has to be within context. So let's talk about what Roadhog needs, okay? Notice that we're not gonna get into specifics here today. This is not a rework project. That would take a lot more time, and maybe something we'll do in the future. But for right now, spiritually, Roadhog must have consistent pressure cycles that either create hook opportunities for himself, like I'm creating my own opportunities, or means that he's not as reliant on hitting the hooks to be able to consistently put output pressure, either through some mobility, kit dynamism, whatever else. This is why, as I said, thinking about wind-up hooks, vaping a cooldown, removing, adding trap, it doesn't matter. It's not super meaningful without fixing the original problem. Alt fire definitely helps here a little bit less pass or fail, but still. Roadhog must be punishable by death when he makes mistakes to provide feedback to the player and to encourage a reward-risk ratio that every other character in the game has to go through. Roadhog must, because of these things, have some form of kit dynamism. In other words, different things that he can do that opens up counterplay into the Roadhog, and as the Roadhog, counterplay, not immunity, to be able to deal with these situations. Now, in terms of some observations, some suggestions, maybe being a little bit more specific, we're just going to kind of bulletproof. We're just going to quickly go through these. I don't think, okay, this is going to be where my opinion comes in, and your mileage may vary. You don't have to take this as gospel. I don't think Roadhog can maintain one shot with its current effective range. I think it's too strong, which means that as long as he has the ability to hook 20 to 25 meters, I don't remember the exact range, in one shot, most characters in the game, it's too valuable of a skill that gimps him from ever being effective in any other situation. As long as he can do this, then you can't make other aspects good without breaking the character. I also think that Roadhog cannot have Vape at its current form as mitigation. It's completely unpunishable in a large percentage of situations and completely impotent in others. It doesn't keep him alive in other situations. It's way too inconsistent of a mitigation, and I think it's the most inconsistent form of mitigation we have in the game, because even characters like Malga with overhealth, cardiac overdrive, some of his perks allow for more consistency of mitigation. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of Malga's mitigation either, especially with his hitbox size. I think Vape is just, I think in its current implementation at least, has to go. I do think Roadhog needs to maintain hook in some form, as it's the most enjoyable aspect of his kit and the one that is most tied to his hero fantasy. Now, how that's implemented, I don't know. We'll maybe talk about that later. I do think, you guys are going to laugh, I think that he needs to have some form of mobility to effectively use his size, strength, and hero model effectively. I think he needs mobility. Do I think that he needs a grappling hook? Not necessarily. Do I think that he needs a jump? No. Does he need a little motorcycle to ride around on? Not necessarily. But I think ranged tanks by design, characters that can apply pressure from range, they just have to be a little bit more slender or have more consistent forms of mitigation, because otherwise they're incapable of taking space and holding space consistently. I also think with a character hero fantasy, it doesn't make sense to make him a full-on range tank. I just don't think it does. He is a brawler, he's a bruiser. We've seen more of that with Overwatch 2. So then how do we mitigate that? How do we make that happen? And we don't have healthy brawl tanks without mobility. Like if you look at characters like Ryan, you look at characters like Hazard, you look at characters like Malga, hit or miss with Malga. You even look at characters like Ramantra, they have some form, even Orisa, right? Like as bad as Orisa is, there is ability to move and rotate more consistently than Roadhog. And so he is the slowest tank. I guess with the exception of Zarya, who has better range than him, who is more slender, right? He needs mobility. Now, the scale of that mobility should be reined in, I think. I don't think it should be ridiculous. I think it should be relatively tame, but he needs something to be able to take space. I want to highlight again how Orisa and Malga's gameplay looks look like in bad circumstances. Go back to that Icon Evolved first point. Go back to that any situation. If you're in those bad matchups, your mobility, whether it's through Javelin Spin or Overrun, is how you are able to take space without dying. And you could do that consistently, right? Roadhog does not have that capability, and that's why he's stuck in a choke, right? And even Azari can get the verticality with right click, right? Because Roadhog doesn't have even a controlled form of mobility. If he's stuck in a choke, he's stuck in a choke, and that means he's unable to create hook opportunities. I also think, kind of tying, this is kind of all tied together, I'm not adding, this is more of like kind of clarifying, I do think that Roadhog probably should have another ability to spread the dynamics of his kit out. Probably that mobility tool, but probably a mobility tool that actually can also be used as a combo tool for hooks. I wouldn't mind if hook was a multi-step process now. I wouldn't mind if Roadhog had a mobility tool that could be used to help finish off tanks. I wouldn't mind if Roadhog had a mobility tool that you can either use it for offensive pressure, for defensive pressure, body slam, gas explosion that could launch him up. I don't know. There's a million things that you could think about, but probably one cooldown that has multiple different applications that allows you to contextually decide what you want to do. What that is, that's not really what we're looking at today. Again, we're just looking at like conceptually what I think Roadhog should be thinking about. This isn't really, again, a Roadhog rework project, maybe at a future time, but it's more to channel the direction and the discourse surrounding this character, because most of the suggestions and critiques I see for Roadhog, and I'm talking 95%, completely miss the mark of what would make him a functional character. Wind-up hook isn't going to work. Putting Vape on a cooldown is not going to work. Removing one shot right now is not going to work. Giving healing to his team, not going to work. Nothing addresses the root issue, which is the inconsistency of pressure, the inconsistency of taking space. And so everything that we do with Roadhog has to start with that. Now, once we answer that root issue, then we can start to kind of weave and adjust. Do we reduce his hook range? Do we take away one shot? Do we put Vape on a cooldown? Do we remove Vape entirely? Do we give it a different form of self-sustain? Whatever, but we has to done with consistency. Consistency is the goal. Consistency and flexibility. And once we do that, we have a Roadhog that is healthier to play into, but also a Roadhog that is more fun to play as well. Now, some of you guys are like, frick this character. He's not worth the development time. Let him rot. For you guys out there, if that's your opinion, sure, that's fine. That's fine. But we do these discussions if Overwatch Blizzard decides to put resources into Roadhog, then what would it look like? Let's try to answer that question. Are they? I have no idea. No idea. But it's worth a discussion, right? Okay. Questions, thoughts. We'll take a few seconds here before we jump into a call with Dirt. All right. Dirt, are you ready? What's up, mate? How are you?
Heyo.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your patience. Sorry for the delay. We got off to a lot of things today, so appreciate your time.
No, you good, man. I was just doing homework.
All right. So I guess we could start off with, for those that don't know, your accomplishments in the pro scene and in the ranked ladder. Introduce yourself, what you do, and then I'm going to let you have the floor.
I basically played Hog in tournaments like for 2 years. I made it to OWCS with Hog and had been coached on Hog with some contenders, coaches, yada yada. But basically, I've been playing him for a very long time in ranked, and I had championed with him before the inflation. But
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. What was that, like 0.01% or something crazy like that? So that's insane.
Yeah, the inflation is insane. Everyone's champion now. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah. Except for me. I don't know. I must have missed the memo. So, okay. So, talk to me about Roadhog here, because as I kind of told you, I'll push back here and there. I'm going to ask some pointed questions, but the point of these discussions is not as much debate as it is getting an expert on the character's full opinion, good things, bad things, the vision, the design, what you like, what you don't like, and trying to find some common ground, I think, is the big thing for me. So take it away.
All right. I think Hog is at his most OP state right now. I mean, for the first time, I'm playing Hog in tournaments, and I'm actually not a terrible character. I'm just this feels a little wrong. I can one-shot Reaper. I can two-shot combo Azari very easily. Stop a push, or I don't even have to bait myself anymore as a Hog. For my teammates, I could just do all. I think the one-shot is very. Whew. It's very, very strong, and it should not be this strong. I feel I don't know.
So what got you into playing Roadhog in the first place? Of all the things to play, you're the one-shot hook guy. What got you into it and playing initially, and how have you found so much success even when he wasn't strong?
He was fun. When I first started in Hog, I started season 1, but I prefer to start talk about the rework, I guess. When they did the rework, they made the hook 3 meters with 4 meters range, you're apart from them. They gutted it. Yeah. And a lot of Hog players were saying oh, it's unplayable, you can't one shot anymore. So I stayed in practice range for 2 hours trying to figure out a way to cheese it. And I figured out something called a spin hook. When you spin him, you just turn it into a 1 meter hook. So I kind of abused that in OWCS stage 2 a lot. And that did kind of get me to group stages, but that's really it.
Sure.
And then I learned to bait myself and play around my teammates, because I like Hog as a concept of character. I liked him a lot because he just sucked as a character when I first played him. He was really weak, and he was gutted to the floor that nobody wanted to play him. He had his 8-second wave, it can just be cancelled, and he had 700 HP, and he just blows up, and his right click and his left click was very weak.
So you were he appealed to you because he was bad, and you wanted to make him work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So how did you make him work? I'm talking ranked here, even.
I just learned little niche techs and stuff, and that doing those techs really made me happy, because nobody could have one-shotted, and I was the only one kind of one-shotting, because I have a very high sense. I play on 3,400 DPI.
Oh my
and
gosh.
8.04. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I just kind of abused that to just do a lot of text and learn stuff. So I learned a stole hook, spin hook.
Sure.
I just named it myself. Not really creative, but nobody else
if it does the job, if it does the job. So what are your thoughts on you kind of talked about your opinion on Roadhog's strength. You think he's too strong, too easy. Oh, I'm getting too much value out of him. And you initially played him because he was more challenging here. But obviously, today, I'm talking more about the problems, the good and the bad with his design. So from you, if I'm giving you the Blizzard chair, you're now the developer for Roadhog here. What are some things that you would keep with the character that you think that all right, I actually think this is really fun, even if it can be challenging to play into? And then what parts about him do you just find incredibly lacking as a design? Or maybe you don't find anything. Tough question.
I like Hog's kid, but I don't know. When Pigpan came out, it was whatever. It just stood there and did its job and just gave you more Vave with the pent up perk.
Is that why you didn't like it? It just didn't do anything.
It did some stuff. I learned that you can put traps inside of boxes and they just still activate through it. It's like little niche stuff.
Right.
But nothing crazy. It helped you hold the space, but after the trap was gone, it's just like, oh, well, I gotta get out of here, so
What about
just kinda
taking
run
space?
away. Ooh. It helps you a little bit. Like, let's say you throw your trap behind the tank while walking up, and they're trapped and they're forced to back. But
Right.
if it's like Mog or Orisa back then, they had the 5-second both hearts, and he just mogged like Nano Whole Hog, Nano Bastion, and there's nothing a hog could do. You just have to swap.
Right. So you're saying you like certain aspects. Like, keep going here. What aspects are you really click with you? I mean, Hook feels like the obvious low-hanging fruit. I don't know if that's the same with you.
I like Hook and Vape. I like the right click, but I think it's unhealthy and it doesn't make sense because it's like inconsistent. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Hog's whole kit is literally inconsistent, but
That's what
it's like
we were
a 50-50.
ranting about, you know? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, best way to is just give him like mobility. I would love Hog to have like a belly bash or something. I don't know. I feel like he needs to hold his ground or space like other tanks. Because Mog has his charge, and then he has like his insane levels of sustain with his hearts for a little bit. Then he charges back to like like a tempo.
Yeah.
Or like Queen has like the shout tempo, if that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, like the layering of things. Like you run, and then you cardiac, and then you have your run again, and then you can use your ultimate, and it's just like there's this cycle of pressure that allows you to hold and take space. And I don't know how you feel, but it feels like with Hog, it's like if your vape doesn't work, then you don't have other tools to hold or take space.
Oh
much.
yeah, if you have no vape, you gotta be out of there like frame one, because you cannot hold the space if you don't have any vape. And like the new perk like they gave him like for the hook, that does nothing. I would say that's like really like inconsistent again.
Yeah.
You just go speed vape.
Yeah, because that actually gives you the mobility that if the only mobility he has to at least disengage a little bit or angle a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you talked about like you'd like to see some mobility. Are there any other things at Hog, like the hook, the vape itself, the ultimate, anything else maybe that he doesn't have that you would like to see changed, improved, leaned into more, or things that you just think are fine as is and that people overhate?
I think the resource meter vape is pretty cancer, but Hog kind of needs it because if he goes back to the 8-second one, he is literally handless.
Yeah,
So-
it's more inconsistent mitigation because once it's canceled, it's done, right? Like you're cooked, right? That makes sense. So
And the
consistency through mitigation, careful with the cooldown. Keep going.
Yeah, and the hook I would say it's balanced. I mean, it's balanced in high elo, but I know how it's cancerous amount to like in low elo where it's like, oh, I'm hooked, I'm dead, no reaction. I think it would be really nice to add a little tad charge time, I guess, but just a little tad to a point of like at least the enemy can react to it, not like frame one death, and give it like ward damage for taking away his like instant, I guess, hook ability.
Yeah. Makes sense. What are your thoughts on his ultimate? That was something that I honestly didn't put a lot of preparation and thought into, but we had a good question earlier. What are your thoughts on his ult?
Whole hog is very weird in tournaments and stuff. I usually save whole hog for specific moments. So if I see a Kiri rush, we use whole hog to get space, and that's really it. So like the rush is over, or we use whole hog to make sure like it's an inconsistent fight. We don't have any cooldowns. You just use it to push people away and reset, or use it for Orisa ult, stuff like that. It's inconsistent. It usually doesn't get a kill. It gets a kill if you see like a big ass blind area you can boop them off, or like a corner you pull them in. That's really it. I just use it to like give space to my team so we can keep on holding that area. I play Hog like in it, like I gave myself like a rule, and Hogs gave me like my old coach gave me a rule where it's like Hog has 3 stages to hold. First stage is like you're very up, and then you go to second one, you're holding a little more, and third one is like you're fully out of the fight kinda.
And how do you decide on that? Is that your vape resource or the situation of the fight?
The first one is like you're very deep in their spawn kind of near. You go for a hook. If you miss it or anything, you just kind of back to stage 2, and you play around like your covers. Try to make sure I don't spam vape. I like tab head, so I try to use it like a shield mitigation or stuff like that. Because back in like when I played in the group stage, Orisa and Maga was hard meta, and the best way to play Hog was like to use it when you know Orisa's gonna walk and stuff, and spear and like try to tank everything at the same time you vape.
Yeah.
Play your range,
Yeah, makes sense. I kind of like how you're describing whole Hog. I mean, we talked about the inconsistency with Hook and with Hog as a whole, but you're finding consistency out of Whole Hog just out of zoning people off, essentially disengaging, disrupting pushes.
Yeah.
That might be a good reminder for some of the mid-rank, low-rank hogs in chat, is that, you know, you can absolutely use it to bully tanks, I'm sure, but maybe it's more consistent than we're giving it credit for. So, yeah, it's good to know.
You build it really fast on the Mature Babe. It's like really, really fast.
True. One thing I'm kind of going through is I want to give you, who are the heroes that you bully? Who are the heroes that bully you, and why? We'll kind of close with this.
I mean, for right now, I feel like Roadhog's numbers are so up in the ceiling, he can basically go into anyone. I haven't had any problem. Like, I deal with Maga a lot easier right now. Like, not even a challenge. Orisa can bully me, but it matters on like what kind of team comp it is. If they're playing more poke, Hog struggles a lot because he needs like a sim TP or like to at least, you know, cover the area.
Sim TP strats are crazy. Crazy.
Oh boy, I love it.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking it like conceptually it deals with the problems that we were talking about, which was the inconsistency, because if you teleport, you're going to have a sight line for hook. It just comes down to a mechanic check at that point. And then you aren't punishable if you fail it, because Sim TP is like 6 trillion HP. So it's crazy. It's crazy how that's been stratted out. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a sim one trick on my team. I just used that a lot, and it was just so OP with Hog.
Yeah. It's kind of fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have my issues with Roadhog, but that is pretty fun to watch, for sure, for sure. So matchup. So you're feeling like right now he's so overtuned, nothing feels particularly bad. Maybe situationally, Orisa, maybe situationally. I saw some thoughts on like, I mean, obviously On is a low hanging fruit depending on whether you have a cleanse or not, depending on the map. How does Freya feel?
Freya, if you play her covers right, she is very annoying, and she can probably stick like a lot more arrows, but she lost that major perk where she had her third bold arrow, so it's like not that big of a problem anymore. And Hawk can just like, I don't know, his numbers are very overtuned, so I can't say like a lot of counters him. I would say Zarya Reaper can run over Hog if it's played right in a macro wise. Like if they do a 3-2-1, Hog can't really do much, then see 5 people run at him. He needs like a sim TP or like someone to help him out. Sure.
So if I were to give you, final question here, I won't take any more of your time. If I were to give you a short list, I need a couple of things that you would love. Dream list here. You don't have to be specific here. I know you mentioned mobility. Is there any couple of things that you would love to see Roadhog change that you think would make the character feel better to play and better to play into? What would make your short list?
I think it would be like, best way is this: Hog needs mobility. He needs some kind of way to hold space. Hog is a very annoying character right now and very cursed. Like he's just fundamentally wrong in the game right now for Overwatch 2, and he needs to change no matter what, or he's just gonna be very boring to go against or very OP.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, Dirt. Obviously, keep up the good work in OWCS. Do you have any socials to plug? I don't know how much you stream and make content nowadays. I know you're a busy guy, but I'd love to plug your stuff if you're down for it. I
play Master League right now in rotation, but I do some streaming sometimes. I do YouTube content. It's just Dirt_OW.
Dirt_OW.
I play Roadhog.
Twitch, we allow you to play Roadhog, yeah. Shocking, that's incredible. So Dirt_OW, and I'm looking on YouTube, and it looks like just Dirt OW on YouTube as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, mate. Well, thank you so much for your time. Apologies for the delay. I really appreciate your feedback.
Nah, you're good, man.
Cheers, man. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
You too.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. All right, that was Dirt. I mean, he's legit, guys. Like, this guy's the play at his level, even prior to the recent buff to Roadhog. You are insane. You have to be insanely good at this character. Like, this guy was competing in basically the equivalent of like top contenders. And we're not just talking about rank play here. We're talking about like this guy was competing at the professional level, and also being a student at the same time. So insane player, insane guy. Obviously had some good takes there, and interesting to see that what he was saying about the mobility side of things. I guess Dirt was an interesting case because he described it as I got into it because it was kind of bad. So it doesn't seem he's kind of up to the challenge, right? So obviously maybe his reasoning is different than the average Roadhog main, but yeah, some really interesting takes here. He said it was just because it was challenging. That's why. And I think one of the things about Roadhog is whether you love or hate Roadhog, you have to admit that there are aspects of the character that are insanely satisfying. Like I would say for me, Hook has always been like a top 2 or 3 ability to land in terms of satisfaction, up there with like Sleep Dart, right? It just feels amazing to land, right? I will let's see if apply is done yet here. Oh my gosh! He actually is, dude. Look at this guy. This is What is he doing? What is he doing? Bro, what is this? Freaking DPS players manifesto. Can we analyze the player's manifesto at some point? Yeah, we can. All right, he's calling me. All right, y'all. Wish me luck. All right, bro.
What's up?
My cheeks are clenched. I saw what you were typing. I can only imagine.
I'm ready.
All right. So we just
I haven't got the
dirt.
hog yet.
We got. Wait. What do you mean you haven't got the hog? Wait. What are you ranting about over there?
Everything. I'm putting all the tanks on a wheel and I'm spinning it.
All the. Okay. Go for it.
I did all the supports too.
Okay. Wait.
We'll just do hog for now.
Okay, do hog for now, but if you have any spicers, we can always edit it out later. I mean, I'll be glad to edit out as much of it as you possibly can. But give me the spice on hog to start.
Okay, well, can you give me a rundown a little bit of what was Dirt's take on hog?
Dirt's take was
short
really
one.
simple. Dirt was like, I like playing Roadhog. I picked up Roadhog because he was hard. He is wildly overtuned, really inconsistent, and he's kind of cancer. And that was it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So
How do you want me to start this? I made some bullet points.
Just start from the top. It
All
doesn't
right.
need to be
Well, I
structured.
say this a lot. I say this a lot on my stream and to everyone else. I think the main part that I don't like about Hog is everybody else in the server. Obviously, the fucking Hog player is having fun. He's on Roadhog. But the problem is when you play Roadhog, especially in a Roadhog mirror, it becomes the Roadhog show. Everything's about Roadhog.
Like Widowmaker duels.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Granted, some tanks are always like that, right? But let's say, for example, if it's a Roadhog 1v1, we need the better backline for the Roadhog duel, or we'll lose. It's just how it is. If they have an Ana, we don't have an Ana.
Time out.
Okay.
You're saying he's team reliant in that aspect. Everyone revolves around setting him up at that level.
Yes, at the level that I play.
Okay.
At the level that I play.
Okay.
I think it's probably different for a lot of other scenarios.
Sure.
I don't know if it really matters in a lot of other ways, but I know that if I'm gonna, I play support a lot nowadays, and Roadhog's being played a lot because of the recent buffs, and whichever team has the Kiriko wins, because Ana's being banned every game now by Roadhogs, and which is also something.
So time out. So you're saying he's relying off of his teammates making the correct bans then?
Yes.
Okay, so we're getting some serious team reliance. You see, Fly, this was one of my points when I was ranting about it before Dirt, was that he is, I think, one of the most team reliant tanks in the game, and people think he's not, and he is. You're helping prove my point. Keep going. I like where this is going.
I mean, it's simple. If we're in a Hog duel and they have Ana, we don't. What do we do?
Right. Keep going.
We're done.
You're cooking.
But there's a lot of things, right? It's not only just the hero picking stuff, the actual gameplay of it. Like, it really does sit. It's almost like you're watching a show. Like, the rest of you sit there and wait for their Roadhog or your Roadhog to do something. Obviously, it's not always like that. There's other ways to play the game, like different angles. But in a lot of situations, it really is which hog makes the first move. And I don't like that about Roadhog. And
now, question for you. I'm going to interject here because I'm going to make you kind of prove your point here.
Doing that.
Okay. So why is it more so with Roadhog than other tanks?
Well, because with Roadhog, you kind of have to mirror more than other tanks. If you're playing Winston, you can play Diva. If they're playing Winston, you can play Diva. If they're playing Sigma, you can play Ram. I mean, at least in my experience, when you play tank into a Roadhog, the game changes completely. Overwatch isn't Overwatch anymore. It's Hogwatch. He's just standing there. He hooks everybody. He doesn't die unless you have an Ana, which is why I think he's way more reliant. Or it's just he changes the game too much. It's kind of like Widow. You said it. It's like Widow Duel, where I feel like when these characters are in the game, it's not really the core Overwatch that I enjoy. It's like it's their game. It's Roadhog's game or Widow's game.
I agree. And I think I figured out why that is. I think this is my thought in it. I'm curious what you think. I think that the character's ways too inconsistent and relies too much on a certain aspect of his kit to provide value. Like, it's really easy to deny Roadhog hooks in theory. And if you deny those hooks, he doesn't do anything. Whereas you can't deny a Hazard from playing the game. You can't deny a Winston from playing a game. You can't even deny a Malga exclusively from playing a game. So Roadhog is either like, if you deny him, he does nothing. If you don't deny him, he runs the lobby. And I think that's the problem right there.
I agree with that. Which is, like I said, it's all about him.
It's the same thing with Widow, right? Widow's either in spawn 2 and 10, or she's, freaking peak ons uncontested murdering your entire backline. You either play the game around them or you don't play at all.
I agree.
Right.
All right, now we can change subject a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into this fucking rant because everyone talks about it, 5v5 versus 6v6. But I do think the Roadhog problem was enhanced with 5v5, mainly because he has more HP. There's not anyone else to help him. There's no other Devo or Orisa to block damage and nade and stuff like that. So it really did make it the Roadhog show. Where before he had a little bit less HP, a little bit less healing. I don't know if he did less damage, probably about the same nowadays. But and the tank passives have made him much worse. So I also want to mention that is 5v5 made him a lot worse, but that's a can of worms. We don't have to talk about 5v5 versus 6v6.
I think that it's true though. Like I think again we go to a situation where you make a character that's situationally unpunishable, and now it's even more so. And then everybody's revolving around his inconsistency. There's no other tank to balance out the inconsistency of pressure output.
Exactly.
And then one other thing that I was talking about is like when you talk about like what an off tank is, you have a character that supplements their main tank in taking space, like directly through a bubble or matrix. Well, Hog doesn't do that. He's just the third DPS, but he does benefit from having another warm body to distract, because you can't hit hooks if everybody's looking at you. But if somebody else is looking, if they're distracted by a Ryan, Sigma, Winston, anything, then you are more likely to hit hooks. So his consistency of hitting hooks was way higher in 66. Now, whether he's good to play in 66 or not, whether he's a good character designer or not, but I definitely think he was more consistent in 6v6. Like that's, I think, definitely true. I
wanna go back on what we were talking about earlier about how he's a team reliant tank, right? I think while he's a team reliant tank, he's also not a team tank though. That's the worst part about it. Is I think in some ways Winston is also a team reliant tank. If you have a bad backline, you can't play Winston. If you don't calm or you don't have a diver, it's hard to play Winston. But he's a team tank. He plays around his team. I don't think Roadhog helps the team at all. He just needs his team. That's the problem. He needs to be babysat, and I don't like that a lot about Roadhog. That's another big thing I don't like, where it feels like everyone needs to play around Roadhog, but he doesn't help us at all unless he's doing good, obviously, and hitting every hook and killing everybody. There's nothing that he does for. What does Roadhog do for the team besides kill people?
Yeah.
There's no matrix. There's no bubbles. There's no space creation besides killing people, and I think that's a big problem too.
Well, there's a way to look at it. One of the things that I was talking about was like a character can be selfish, not just through their own selfish desires, like I can keep myself alive, but also because he's not always punished for his mistakes in comparison to a lot of other tanks. So you can kind of be like, well, I'm damaging, I'm popping off or whatever, but you're actually not doing enough. And because you're not dying, you think that you're the real king. Like I remember I had this real problem when I was coaching a lot of Orisa players way back earlier in Overwatch 2, where they'd finish the match like 34-5, but their supports were like crying, throwing every resource into them. And then they were wondering why their supports were dying or why their DPS weren't getting resources. Because he's just a resource hog, right? Funny. And of course you're getting literally everything. You're crying for literally every resource, and so of course you're gonna finish off with a good KD. You know? Right.
And I think another point about his kit in general is every character is centered around something, right? Like Genji's surrounded by his dash, Tracer, his blinks and whatnot. I think Roadhog, obviously, his main focus is his hook, right? We all know that. But the problem with that is if he misses that hook, you don't have a tank for 6 seconds or whatever. Is it 6 seconds? Yeah, 6 seconds. Yeah. Where with other tanks, let's say Queen has a bad axe. She still has Shout and Knife to do something, to create space for her team. There's other ways to play the game with other tanks if you mess up your initial cycle. Yeah. If you miss your first Roadhog hook, what do you really do? Obviously, you have a gun, but for the team play of the game, it just doesn't make sense for this character to be like this.
One of the questions I had from my Twitch chat yesterday or 2 days ago was like, if a Winston has a bad bubble, is he still creating space? And the answer is yes, of course. Like, it's not optimal, but you're still creating space, you're still holding space. So even if you have, like, Winston is like a really long cycle of a cooldown, right? Like 12 seconds for bubble, right? But it's still doing something. When a Roadhog hits a hook, it's strictly pass or fail. And I don't know another tank that has a strictly pass or fail cooldown. That the entire kit revolves around that cooldown. Like you said, even Queen Knife, it's pass or fail, yeah, sort of. But there's still other aspects of her kit to provide pressure. He's strictly pass or fail, and then there's not a lot in between those cycles, not as much.
Yep.
Again, the Widow example, we keep talking about it, right? It keeps coming back to Widow, another character that, unsurprisingly, is hated a lot.
Yep. I'm not a big Widow guy either. And just to keep mentioning about the kit and being robbed around Roadhog, I don't know if there's a middle ground, right? Like, we keep trying to balance Roadhog, but if I close my eyes and I start dreaming, I don't know what that looks like. What is a balanced Roadhog? I can't imagine. I feel like he's either terrible and can't do anything, or he kills everybody and one-shots everybody. I feel like it's really hard to see where, like, I think Winston's in a really good spot right now. I don't think Roadhog could ever get to where Winston is with the way he is right now. I can't see it. I don't know how Roadhog could exist in this game without being OP and without being terrible and never picked ever again. It's just super hard because it's all about the hook. He needs to have more to his character than the hook. I don't know how, but he needs it.
I think
the same thing is a better Roadhog.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's true. Like, there's just more to, like, when you look about Queen, like, she's a little bit more self-sustained, sufficient, right? But not to Roadhog's extent. She also provides a little bit of team utility,
for the team.
Right?
Yep.
She has consistency of pressure output and multiple different ranges. Like, obviously, Queen performs a little bit better up close, but she has, like, she's better in that mid-range and then close the distance later, right? She has multiple abilities. She has multiple flexibilities. She's punishable. She dies. She can pop off. And, you know, I think I was talking with Dirt about this, and one thing Dirt was saying is that he said the same thing. He's like, he needs something else in his kit to provide consistent output of pressure. Something that isn't just hook reliant. I mean, you know me, like, I'm going to be like, oh, some form of, like, limited mobility, but even something just, like, as a combo tool, right? Like, something that you can use in different situations to apply pressure and maybe even set up your own hooks or something that isn't going to be reliant off of whether they're looking at me or not.
A trap.
No. Talk about the most useless utility in the history of the world. A trap that's on the floor that anybody can shoot unless you can't literally see it, and all it is revolving around his one shot.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And you know, I think we talked about this on Plat Chat a little bit, and I actually love the idea that you had where I don't like his combo. It's not a combo, right? You can say, well, he has to hook and then he has to shoot, right? But that's not really a combo. When you think about combos in Overwatch, like Genji has to right-click dash, right-click melee. That's like the most popular combo right now, right? That's a series of mechanics that you have to learn. And I feel like I wouldn't mind being comboed by Roadhog if he had to do something else, like you said, like if he had to set up his hook somehow. I'm not really sure how. Or maybe if you hooked them in and you had to do something else, like, you know, knock them up or knock them down, or maybe not knock them down like a stun, but, you know, like maybe like an uppercut with Roadhog.
Knock anybody up.
Maybe don't knock anyone down. But, you know, like maybe like an uppercut that doesn't stun them in the air. Maybe he belly bounces them. I don't know. Just something more than a gun to my face and I'm dead instantly. I think that would make me less frustrated. Like, okay, I got hooked. He shot me, then he used another ability, and he shot me again, and I died. Like, okay, well, he used 5 things, and he killed me. It is what it is. But right now, it's very frustrating to just get hooked and killed. And I usually play the squishy characters, right? I play DPS, I play support. But I actually think that other tank players have the worst time when it goes against Roadhog. And it's not even just the one-shot thing. It's just, I mentioned it at first, just having to play around him. But everything that you learn about Overwatch when it comes to dive heroes and poke heroes, that changes so much when Roadhog's in the lobby.
Right. Got a question in chat, which I want to answer. So what if you get set up by placing a trap? Well, the reason why the combo tool has to be a tool that isn't just used for hook. I think that's the key thing. Like, if you look at like the most healthy combo oriented characters, they're not characters that you go A, B, C. They're characters that can go BAC, BCA, CBA. You know, it depends on the situation, right? Like, I don't know if you ever played a lot of Rivals with Black Panther, right? That's why I think Black Panther was like, I felt like such a failed hero design, is because you kind of flow charted your combo every single time. You never ever changed up the order of operations. Whereas you look at a character like
dash,
right. Whereas you look at a character like Genji, you can dash and deflect out. You can deflect a close distance and then finish with dash. Like Tracer, Genji, every combo mobility, whatever oriented character, like the combo quote unquote cooldown can also be used to, like, for example, like let's say we do like a little mobility tool that you can actually, that does damage. Do you use that mobility tool to finish off the hook, or do you use that mobility tool to set up on an angle that allows to hit a hook easier? Right, which then means you can't one shot, right? So it's like you have to think about, do I burn my cooldown here? Do I burn my cooldown there? I mean, every complicated, fun character in the game does that. Do you use Ash's coach gun to disengage, or do you use it to reposition yourself? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, mobility is an obvious one, but even something like on and nade, you know, you have cooldowns, amp for Lucio, right? You have things that provide different choices, and like Trap was the definition of an anti-choice ability, because it was easy to destroy, it had zero range whatsoever, and you could just throw it at your feet. You couldn't do anything else with it.
I mean, I don't think we need more deployables. I don't think traps.
No, I agree.
If our solution to boring game design and things not going well is to add traps, I mean, this game's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm glad that they decided to change that. Yeah. I do think the new Roadhog is more fun. At least he's a little stronger.
I mean, all fire is more consistent for sure. Like all fire is like 100%. It's still inconsistent because sometimes you just get randomly one shot, but at least between those hook cycles he can do something, right? Like it's not all feast or famine. But
I think Blizzard needs to give up on surrounding the character on the hook. I know there's always in every game there needs to be a hook guy. I know every single game has a hook, the guy that hooks everybody. But I just can't see this character in 5v5 being based around his hook for the rest of the game. I just can't see it. And being in a good spot, at least. Yeah,
certainly not its current implementation. I think if they're going to deal with hook, it probably needs to be from less range.
Yeah.
And then have some way of closing the distance safely, which he just doesn't have right now. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I see people that talk about it a lot, and I think it's a funny thing to talk about. I don't even know if it would be very well, but making Roadhog a DPS wouldn't even be that bad of an idea, but I think it would just be kind of stupid if he hooked someone in. He'd probably die if he was squishy.
Right, that's the problem. You see, there's that weird dichotomy of like Roadhog is like this poke tank that pulls people close to him. Like, how do you function with that? You have to overtune his survivability, otherwise it just doesn't make sense.
Yep. That's actually something I also wanted to. Well, I guess. I mean, they did that. Marvel Rivals does that with Bucky, and he has like a combo.
But that's because Bucky is tanky, right? Like Bucky is like the tankiest, at least before they nerfed his damage or like nerfed his HP or whatever. Like I think they should have leaned into that more with Rivals, just like make Bucky's damage a little bit lower, but he's like the tanky like combo because he gave himself shields using abilities. He had a little bit more HP, right? So like that's why he was allowed to do that. And maybe they could do something like that with Roadhog and just be like, hey, don't hook tanks in for no reason, My problem with the Roadhog is DPS is more along the lines of like, what are they gonna do with this hero model? like, like, what are they gonna do? Just like stick a pin in his butt cheeks, like a balloon deflating. Like I don't know how you would do that, but
reason he's working out lately. I don't
Hog
know.
went on Ozemic, like
I think that would probably be the best bet. Also, you actually mentioned he's a poke character that pulled people closer to him, and also reminded me another point I'll talk about where when we know the archetypes of Overwatch comps, right? Dive, Tracer Genji's good, Sombra, you can also play flanker, hit scan, like the brawl characters are really good, but I don't think Roadhog has a comp. He's Roadhog. Like there's no what comp style are we playing? We play Roadhog. Yeah, we're playing poke, but I don't.
Well, there's a hybrid in all the wrong ways. There's a lot of other hybrid tanks. You hazards like the brawl dive hybrid, but like because he has enough consistency and flexibility, he can function in those. Hog is like you said, he's in between and has nothing to deal with random. He's a weird niche character that you pick. Have you seen him being played in pro meta right now? He has to be played with a Symmetra.
Yeah,
they literally TP.
He has to. So you can TP hook.
It's crazy. It's like that team reliance that we're talking about. Like you said, where does he fit?
He doesn't fit, but I think he fit in a little bit in 66. That was a big part of it, and I think that when they deleted an entire role, I think a lot of the 66 characters got left behind. I actually think that Zarya. I like Zarya right now. I still think that she's not fun as the main tank.
Agreed.
I hate it, and I think she's fit a lot. She's adapted with their changes a lot better than Roadhog has. Because she's just a little bit more self-sufficient. She has, like we said, she has teammates or team reliancy, but also she benefits the team a bit with bubbles and grab as well. I think Roadhog doesn't do any of that. And I think they tried with the AoE heal, but let's be real. What are we doing?
Well, it's not how Overwatch 2 plays, which is the irony. It's like the Overwatch 2 is way more spread, right? So like giving an AoE heal, that doesn't work in Overwatch 2 near as much. You know what I'm saying? In Overwatch 1, he doesn't need that. 6v6, he doesn't need that. And yet that's where it's being played. Like that's the irony. Is like I only saw that perk being used in 6v6 where he didn't need the help. Like where he didn't need that utility, right? Which is so strange.
All right, well, I think I said all my points.
All right, you're right. All right, gun to your head. Roadhog or Kiri dies. Who dies in the lore?
Oh, shit. Well, I think Kiri is better, like stronger in the game.
Sure.
I think Roadhog is a bigger problem.
Sure.
I think Kiri is very fixable with some changes. I think, I agree with what Lasquid said in your chat. Kiri is salvageable. I think Roadhog needs to be completely changed or deleted.
All right. So Roadhog eats the bullet.
Roadhog gets hit by a train.
Yeah. Kiriko needs the full rework, the Ozemic, and then Roadhog just gets shot.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I like that idea.
Enough. Makes sense.
Well, hey,
Makes sense.
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cheers,
you have
dude.
Sticks on later?
Yeah, 6 is going to be on in like 5 minutes, so yeah.
Oh,
hang around.
great. So he's going to tell you how much he loves Roadhog. You can
Yeah,
one-shot
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah,
That was fun.
All right, cheers,
All
bud.
right,
Appreciate you,
GG's,
brother.
man. See ya.
All right, y'all. So we've got 6, we've got Realth, then we've got r/Roadhogmains. We've got 2 guests, and then me. So we're 3 for 3 on Roadhog needs something else to do. So I think that like there's some consistency there. Question is, what is it going to be? And I think the big thing is that we don't make Hook have extra steps necessarily. We just need more things, an ability that does more than one thing. AKA isn't just about more damage. It needs to be more flexible. All right, I think we're gonna jump into the 6 here. What's up, mate?
Hey, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. Appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. Shouldn't take too much of your time. But we've had Apply, we had Dirt. I've gotten some of my thoughts as well. And so I guess I'm just going to kind of let you have the floor here. What do you like about Roadhog? What do you not like? What do you think about his vision as a character? And I might have a question here or there, but I just want to get your thoughts on it. So introduce yourself for the idiots that may or may not know who you are. I imagine most folks do, but quick introduction would be awesome.
All right. All right, sweet. I am 6. I play a lot of Roadhog for a very, very long time. Since Overwatch 1, I hit 4,700 back in Overwatch 1. Currently Champ 3 and 5.5. I hit Champ 1 and 6.6. And I do just like a lot of Hog YouTube content, so.
Sick. All right, man. Been the GOAT for a while. Thoughts on Roadhog? Obviously, it's hot on the topic right now with the recent state of things, but I don't want this to just be, what do you think about the state of Roadhog right now? But just historically and your vision for him as a character. What got you into playing Roadhog initially? We'll start with that.
I guess what got me into playing Roadhog initially, it's really hard for me to think back because like so long ago.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure what it was, like just being able to be like self-sufficient and being able to like output damage and just like do a lot on my own without like team reliance. And like obviously this is like very early Overwatch 1. We're not talking about like current 5.5. So yeah, I just think that like the whole being able to have a lot of impact on the match just on your own because you can self-heal, you can do damage. That's what really got me into playing Roadhog.
Sure. And where have you seen his, I guess, identity shift over the years and like to where he is now? What do you like? Let's just start with what do you like with Roadhog? You talked about his self-sufficiency. What do you enjoy about playing him now? Because you're obviously still playing him to this day, so surely it's something that you enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what I really like about Roadhog and just like his core gameplay, it's just like he's a very mechanical character. Mainly the hook, because obviously we saw the with Pigpen rework, they took away the right click. I really love the right click. I think it's a it's a nice skill shot, and so is the hook.
Yep.
The hook is also a nice skill shot. So I think that's what really I enjoy about the core gameplay of Hog. Is just he's a very mechanical character. You have to land your shots, you have to land your hooks, and I just really like that.
Yeah, that is true. That is fairly unique for tanks. There aren't as many tanks that come to mind that are that uniquely mechanically reliant, especially when you factor in that alt fire. I mean, Sigma potentially comes to mind, but Roadhog feels so viscerally satisfying when you talk about like satisfying abilities to land, right? Hook has to be in the top couple, right? Whether you enjoy Roadhog or not. It's completely different. And so for you, it's like those skill shots, those satisfying moments, that's why you play Hog.
Absolutely. And like Zari's my, close second. Like Zari's like my second most played.
Yeah.
And, same reasons. Like, you have to track, you land
Right.
some juicy right clicks too. So it's just like the pure mechanics of the character.
Right. And I think when we talk about like what Roadhog needs, I think the consistent thing that I've been seeing from people that hate Roadhog, from people that love Roadhog, is that the mechanical aspect is just the most fun part. The gun, the hook, it's just fun. It's really fun. So whatever iteration of Roadhog that we want, preferably to have something of that form staying in. Don't give him a bubble, not necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you not like about playing as or versus Hog? What do you find lacking? What do you wish was changed?
Okay.
Big question.
I guess I'll go into the Roadhog mirror just because like I feel like that's a bit easier to go into right now.
Sure.
I guess if I'm playing like a Roadhog mirror, I don't really like. I liked it before when I was able to like pressure Roadhog with like the right click, primary fire, make him use his breather, and then just like hook him out of breather, and like it's just like an 8-second cooldown. Very punishable. Nowadays, not so easy to punish. And that could be pretty annoying, especially like if I feel like I got like a really good hook on the enemy hog just like runs away, just vaping. It's just like, well.
So you're saying, as a Roadhog player, when I outplay the enemy Roadhog, getting a cooldown advantage just doesn't hit the same as actually getting a kill.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's just, and it's kind of hard to like change that too, because like I feel like he does need the breather on resource, especially in 5-5. But I think one thing that I also don't really enjoy about playing Roadhog in some like 5-5 scenarios is if I have to like take space, it feels like I have 4 people looking at me, and it's just like I can't really do it. I can't really do much. Like, and it like forces me to like play just like objective like most of the time, and I just have to like, I don't know. It's sort of like playing Dead by Daylight. I'm just like running around, just like trying to like survive on my own. So.
Right. Something that we talked about is just it's so incredibly difficult to take space when people are giving you attention. It feels like every step of the way is just agony.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is more with Roadhog than other tanks in 5v5?
Well, I mean, he has a huge hitbox. He has like virtually no mobility. I think those like the 2 main factors. And then also, I feel like there's also like this thing where players are just like, at least in like the higher ranks, they're just like smart, so they know to like wait out the one cooldown that they really need to wait out, which is hook. So I think those 3 factors really. Right.
So you're basically saying I'm big, really hard to kind of mitigate through a lot of that stuff. It's easy to shut down, easy to shoot, and then also the enemy team knows when I'm a threat and when I'm not a threat, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the things that we were talking about with Apply, we were talking about with Dirt, and both from the hating and loving Roadhog side of things, there's a real difficulty to know exactly what he needs. But one of the things that was consistently brought up was that he needs something. He needs something different to apply some sort of consistency, whether it's mitigation, movement, mobility, utility. Have you given this any thought on your end? It doesn't have to be a specific, like he needs this cooldown, but conceptually, what comes to mind to you?
Well, I haven't really thought too much about like what would I change about Hog, because like, obviously I enjoy playing the character that much,
of course,
or a lot. But I think I've seen like some suggestions where the hook can have like a wind up. And I think you can also like give him some like buffs there. Obviously, if he's going to be winding up his hook, he would probably need like some damage reduction or CC immunity while winding up the hook, because that's like a pretty big nerf.
Right.
So I think you would need to like buff his survivability while he's using the wind up. And you could probably do that, or you could probably use that wind up, the survivability from that for like various things. Maybe you want to like take some like burst damage and like reduce the damage from that or something without using like your breather resource.
Sure. I saw one suggestion we saw a few days ago where it's like the wind up acts as if it was a javelin spin from Orisa, where there's like mitigation during the wind up itself, like it eats cooldowns in front of you. I don't know if that's exactly what we'd look for, but it's an interesting idea. Do you think he needs more in terms of like, because I think one of the problems that we have is that when we think about fixing Hog, we always do it from a standpoint of nerfing the character. And I think that's kind of like the problem that we have, is that we're always like, oh, he needs vape on a cooldown. Well, you talked about it. It'd be impossible to take space with vape on a cooldown, right? Or it needs to wind up on hook. Well, that's a massive nerf. Like, that's going to make the character even more inconsistent with hook value. So for me, I actually want to start with like, what do we want to give Hog? What do we want to, so that we can take some of the strength. And where would you start with that? Again, you said you haven't given it a ton of thought because you do enjoy playing him, but what have you thought, if you have thought?
I mean, that Invigorate perk is like really, really good.
The speed one.
Yeah, the speed one. But the issue is like it does require like to use your resource, and that's like your whole tanking ability. So I think really just like some sort of like extra mobility would probably be good in terms of like taking space, because I don't really know what else you can add. I mean, he's just like a big dude. He's very easy to shoot at.
Right. Well, you look at like Malga, right? How does Malga function if you've ever played, versus Malga OTPs? It's like Malga is pretty inconsistent too, but because he can run around and has damage reduction while he's running around, he can take space consistently. Not always gonna feel great, but you can. Hog is nothing. Okay. What about his ultimate? Where we talked a little bit with Dirt earlier, and he's saying a lot of times in scrims, you can blow up tanks, sure, but he's like saying, I'm just going to kind of destroy the enemy team's tempo. They're using a support ult to engage, to try to disrupt that. Where do you find value out of Roadhog's ultimate?
Okay, so I've always had the opinion that Roadhog's ultimate is so bad that it's good. Like, you can just use it to get any inkling of value, just anything. Yeah. You can you can obviously use it to kill a single person.
Sure.
Or if I see a Mercy going for a res, I'll use my Hoggle just to boop her out of range. If they're using Katuna Rush, I'll just knock them back and just deny those ultimates. Even recently, Wuyong, new support, I'll just like knock them back with the Hoggles whenever they're using the ultimate. So I think just finding like any value out of the ultimate is pretty good. So very inconsistent ult though. It's probably one of the worst tank ults in the game. But yeah, I think just finding any value out of it.
Yeah,
that's what worked for me.
Yeah, makes total sense. Makes total sense. I wanted to talk with you because we've talked a little bit about some of the other utility and the other buttons, but there's one thing that you have that I think puts you in a different league from the people that we've talked to today, and that is you have a lot of experience playing Roadhog and 6v6. And obviously that's going to shift your perspective a little bit of it. You obviously hit Champ 1. It doesn't really get much higher than that. So what has that perspective changed? Because I definitely think it's a little bit different. And there are some things that make Roadhog feel a little bit better in that 6v6 format. So what's the good, what's the bad in the 6v6 compared to 5v5 for Hog?
Okay, well, the good is he feels much better to play into, or play, not into, but like play as, because you're not really just going to go against like 5 counters. That's just like the nature of 6v6.
Right.
I feel very, very much less reliant on what my supports are picking.
Right.
So that's very nice.
Now, can I interrupt you really quick? Can you elaborate on that in the 5v5 format? Because that was brought up earlier from Apply, where he says it's like, we talk about, one of the things that you said earlier is that Roadhog feels very like I can do my own thing, at least in 66 back in the day when you first started playing. But one of my little theories is that I think Roadhog, at least in 5v5, is one of the most team-reliant tanks in the game, whether it's with bans, your team selections, any team selections. And you're kind of implying that here as well, where it's like you're not as screwed if the situation with your backline isn't the correct one. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, like, okay, so in 5v5, man, if my backline locks like Alari Lucio, I mean, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't do much. Especially if Ana's not banned, then I'm really gonna need that Curie, or else I'm just gonna really just like fall over. And I don't know, like it really does depend mostly what my supports are picking in 5v5.
Sure.
And obviously, thankfully, most of the time, whenever I'm playing, they seem to be pretty aware of what like to pick. But yeah, there's definitely more reliance in what your supports are picking in 5v5 compared to 6v6.
Sure, he's just due to the sharp nature of his design, so very feast or famine. And in 6v6, so you talked about it. You said there's a little bit less harder to all counter swap Hog. You're not quite as reliant, therefore, on your supports picking the right characters. Continue with that conversation.
Okay. So in 6v6, I feel like he's obviously way less reliant on, supports, what the team is picking. Obviously, there's like still some. It's a team game. You're still gonna need to rely. But I would say currently, right now, maybe Breather doesn't need to be on a resource in 6v6. Because it's very, very strong, and some of the changes also, like the most recent changes, are absolutely insane in 6v6. Before these recent buffs, Hog was already doing he was already pretty good in 6v6. He was like, I'd say A tier. Like, he's very, very solid. These recent buffs, I'm pretty sure they just like shot him up into S+++ tier in 6v6. So now he's just permaban. So it kind of sucks too, because can't really play
You
him
live by the bans as Roadhog, or you die by the bans. Welcome to the club.
Yeah,
makes total sense. Makes total sense. Now I'm kind of one of the things that I was talking about on my end. I'm kind of more of, these are my theories. I'm curious what the experts have to say. Was that we talked about the team reliance. One of the things that we've been talking about is the inconsistency. And this is something that we talked a lot about with Apply as well, where like not just with Hook, not just with your team's picks, not just with the enemy team's picks, but even just the pressure alone. Like if we talk about Hook as a mechanical check, well, how about, can I hit a hook when everybody's looking at me? Not really, right? It just feels so incredibly hard, right? It is, as opposed to more than any other tank's engage cycle, it really relies on the enemy team kind of lose a lapse in judgment or a distraction, almost like a Widowmaker headshot. Otherwise, you just don't get it, right? And in 5v5, it feels much harder to force those lapses in judgment. You don't have a way of consistently creating pressure. It's only the threat of Hook, and I hope that somebody overpeaks me, right? Do you find that to be easier in 6v6 because of the other tank's distraction? Is it easier to find more consistent pressure in 66?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's just like way more chaos like in 66. There's like way more things going on, more cooldowns going on, and you know, in 5v5 it's just like, okay, well, they have one tank, just look at the Roadhog, make sure where he is. It's pretty relatively easy skill check, right?
Yeah.
In 66, I mean, you got so many things going on. You got like tanks to your left, to your
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So some supports may not be like fully aware of like where's this Roadhog at, and he just like pops around the corner. So yeah, definitely able to do way more in terms of like finding hook opportunities in 66.
Okay. Matchups,
Especially against tanks too.
Yeah, sure. And I wanted to kind of talk about that. This is kind of including 5v5 and 66 now. What matchups really pain you, and what matchups feel really easy right now? Maybe even before the current patch, because obviously right now Dirt was saying nothing feels bad right now. Sure. Okay, so what in theory usually feels pretty bad for you? Tank, DPS support, and what feels good?
Okay, so for 5v5, I'm gonna go like with before this patch. So before this recent patch, Orisa probably is like the biggest pain point, just because she can sit at infinite range, no fall off damage, can deny your hook with like pretty much every single ability that she has. So Orisa is a very also she has like a lot of armor, and that really screws over shotguns. So Orisa is probably the biggest pain point for Hog. And you know, I would just go into my 5v5 games just like ban Orisa, and obviously I would like ban Ana. But because I'm banning Ana, people just play Mauga, and Mauga's not going to get naded or slept.
Right.
So then Mauga would just be like a secondary pain point. But like he was a little bit less, like he's more easier to deal with than Orisa.
Right.
Because you just had to wait out the shout.
Sure. Wait out the shout,
Yeah.
play around his CDs. You know, you can poke him a little bit more consistently at range. I guess certainly now with the alt fire. But yeah, it makes total sense. What else? What feels good to play into? Like obviously everything right now, but on paper.
Honestly, a very mobile heroes. Like if they're playing like Doomfist, Ball, Winston, that feels obviously very good to play into. Well, one, because I like hooking stuff midair. That's like very satisfying to me. But pretty much like a lot of tanks feel pretty good to play into right now. I'd say one tank that I think probably has like that is like hard to play into right now is Zarya. That right click perk is really good, like especially if
it's crazy.
Yeah, especially if they're running like Zarya, Reaper, Lucio. Like I want to get to a 3-stack in the mid-season patch, and they were like running Zarya, Reaper, Lucio, and they were just like running at me, and I was like, I'm just getting run over. Like
Dirt said the exact same thing. It's like you get a coordinated Zarya Reaper speed, and it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
Makes sense. Okay. To wrap this up, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I know we kind of been dancing around it here, and again, you were saying that you would like Roadhog to have something else, at least especially in 5v5, because when everybody's your attention, you don't have a consistent way of taking space, mitigating space. There's a lot of pressure on units, harder. But the things that you really liked were the skill shots. So whether that's the gun, whether that's the hook, whatever they do with Hog, I want that to stay.
Yes.
Yeah, makes total sense. Well, Six, I really appreciate your time, mate. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Have a good rest of your... obviously, twitch.tv/66, right? I'm trying to think what your Twitch is here. Yeah,
it's number 6 CYX. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, mate. Well, appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Right,
you too.
Cheers. Bye-bye. All right. Well, we're getting Mercy vibes again. You guys get what I'm saying? As in, if you guys are around here for the Mercy discussion, it's everybody's kind of on the same page here, you know? And this is what, you know, this is why we have these conversations, is whether it's going to lead to actual development time, I don't know. But maybe it's cornball, but like, hey, I think everyone's kind of on the same page here. Little too feast or famine. Some matchups feel impossible. Some stuff just feels too easy. Not the saying that Six, Freudian slip, and Dirt are the spokespersons for the entire Roadhog community, but you guys are seeing the consistent theme here. And I knew that the people that we talked to would like hook or shots. Like, I agree, whenever you play Roadhog, the gun, the all-fire, the hook are the most fun parts. Like, it's the skill shot, it's what makes Roadhog unique. And so I do think that whatever we do with Roadhog, I hope keeps hook or gun in some sort of implementation. Okay, I will say let's do Realth, because Realth is on European time, and I want to be respectful of his time because he took the time to talk with us. So I'd like to make sure that we're favoritisming Realth. Okay, Realth time.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Okay. How are you?
I'm very good. So first off, who was the guy that said they're putting $5 on me mentioning 5v5 in the first 2 minutes?
Oh shoot. I don't know. One of my chatters did for sure. Wait, let me see if I can
I'll
sort
have
this
you know,
out.
your streamer couldn't talk about Roadhog for literally like 3 minutes before trying to make him fly. So
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? It's good taste, I think, to make him fly. Well, I think more so than most characters, I think the 66 conversation is worth having, because even if you aren't a 66er, the problems that Roadhog deals with in 5v5 as opposed to 66 highlight his problems in both 5v5 and 66 is the kind of the way I look at it. So it's like it's the things the reason why some characters feel better in 5v5 versus 66 versus vice versa. It's like it kind of there are certain aspects of the game modes that make more sense. I'm gonna pull up your face cam because you put the effort into it. So okay,
so you made a few notes at the start.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know how much of that you heard.
No, it's okay. I was here for the start. I missed a couple of guests, so I don't know what's been said, but I know what you said. So you said, like, first off, you got a couple of problems, like the inability to consistently create space on Roadhog,
Yes.
right? The fact that very peaky, very like
Yes.
basically
So well, I will
cooldown.
because it's going to be a format issue. Is his inability to take space consistently. His reliance on somebody else to set himself up, which for the 5v5 definition of a tank doesn't work. And I would argue that he doesn't fit the 66 definition of a tank either, because you either have your main tank switch create space, or you have your off tank switch directly through their utility support taking of space. And so when people joke that he is a DPS, that really is the limit of his space creation. Like when you think about what is the difference between a Roadhog versus a DPS in 66, they do the exact same thing. They create space as a threat on an off angle, but he doesn't support his main tank directly whatsoever.
Yeah, I tend to go by the Genji definition, like when their pressure cycle should Genji dash at somebody.
Yes.
And the answer is, well, if he's hooked them, they're dead, and if not, he's doing nothing, right? Like so
basically, right?
Basically, he's not. He's a DPS. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's a DPS. He's a DPS, and my other main argument was that he is wildly inconsistent with his pressure output, with or without alt fire. Obviously, a lot worse without. And the fact that you can't consistently apply pressure, even if you were to say he is a DPS, he is a hit scan DPS in that aspect, where he is. Yeah. He doesn't have the utility that allows for consistent space control. And it's even worse because you look at Hook it as the one shot. It is something that kind of requires the person to be either distracted or to misplay to get maximum value. And obviously, I remember your excellent Roadhog rant, and that was like the main point of that is where it's like he is the definition of punishing errors, but not necessarily creating his own opportunities.
Yeah,
Which
he's the most lethal tank by far. Mostly because there's no telegraph whatsoever on any of his abilities. Like they tried to put it in with the pig pen, but realistically, it was always behind the closest wall because otherwise people would shoot it. Like that was
or immediate or
just
useless
pig
or
penning
useless.
90 degrees.
Either completely you can't outplay it, or you couldn't, or it did nothing for you whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then I also talk about like the whole like fishing playstyle where like he's just either instantly dead, incapable of taking space. I had like a game not too long ago playing with a Roadhog guy on Eichenwald attack into Sigma poke DPS, and he died 5 times in 3 minutes, and like he's dying first, and there's nothing that he can do for sure. And then there's other situations when he's literally unkillable. And this is something that's obviously exacerbated with Hog on resource or heal on resource. But it's something that was the case in 6v6 as well at times too, where like even though he was punishable, he was more punishable with characters that had the DPS or the capability of interrupting his vape. Otherwise, you just didn't kill him. And so I find the character is just extremely feast or famine, extremely inconsistent. He's not always punished for his mistakes. You don't always get clear feedback. He doesn't engage. He's selfish, not just through his ability to heal himself, but he's selfish because he can actually avoid dying. Which means that you don't always get immediate feedback on whether you're doing things right. He's like in a weird way, he has some similarities with Lifeweaver, where it's like you could just kind of sit there like, I'm doing nothing wrong. Yeah, but you're not doing anything. Like you're just existing, and so that's not enough. So
you're implying space by the Hook being on cooldown.
Right. If you look at every other tank, like even some of the more quote unquote unpunishable tanks, there is an inherent risk out of basically every cycle of pressure. But there's also a cycle, it's consistent, right? Every tank is more consistent with taking space. Every tank can be punished for taking that space, whereas Roadhog is neither consistent nor always punishable. So,
yeah. So, essentially, I see quite a lot of this as a feature, not a bug sometimes, especially when it goes to 6v6 balance, right? Like, we have more design space to design in, right? 5v5
Agreed.
has certain
Yeah.
limitations on tank. They have to be able to more or less stand on main. They have to be able to put out consistent pressure. And all of these are kind of removed by just the averaging out of stuff that exists in 6v6. So like when you say like you can't be punished for a hook because vape exists, right? Like we had to do that because the interactions in 5v5 are so sharp with its counters that realistically you can't do that. And I think that's one of those situations where that's a 5v5 change to make him better at tanking in a kind of like brawl sense when he's doing his normal job, which used to be the off angle, sit on a corner, sustain infinitely, and then like swing for hooks at you and distract through that.
Right.
And that's his pressure. He's actually more oppressive because of that, because he can't be stunned out of anything or punished.
Correct. But there's a weird dichotomy here where like in 66 you're also more reliant off of if there's a higher ceiling for team and tank synergies in 66, there's more of a responsibility for you to do that. And as anybody that's ever played with a Roadhog off tank, especially if the map doesn't have those flanks, it feels really bad to go, okay, well, this guy's playing like a third DPS, but he's not actually playing like a third DPS. He's not helping me whatsoever.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and this is why
I can...
he functions better for sure, but this is why I wanted to have you on, is because the character is flawed. Major flaws, and I want your take on it.
Okay, so a couple of avenues we can go to. So we first off, we did a fix for Roadhog for our 6v6 code. May as well go to that first, right? All we did was make it so he can put a breather on somebody else, right? Fairly simple, basically the same cooldown, heals them, damage reduction, and then we basically fix the interaction between Roadhog and Winston, Roadhog and Reinhardt, or Roadhog plus wanting a DPS on that angle, right? Like simple fix. Problem with that is it doesn't work in 5v5, not because it doesn't work in general. I mean, they broke it, don't get me wrong, by changing the modes, because every character only really has 4 buttons. And crouch if you can't ball.
Well, not having a tank to enable really sucks for off-tank heroes, really.
Exactly. And I think with our mode, it's, okay, so you've got D.Va, who's the dive tank enabler. You've got Zarya, who's the brawlish tank enabler, although they get mixed up, obviously. And you've got Roadhog, who's the more pokish, and that was kind of like the idea.
Makes sense.
But if you translate that to 5v5, what all you're going to do is you're going to throw that breather on a Reaper as he TPs in, and he's going to murder somebody with no interaction whatsoever. Right. In 6v6, you need that first initiation.
But I want to highlight,
resources taken out.
You gave Hog something. That's been the theme of today, is before we take away, we must give for Roadhog, because there is nothing that you could take away or nerf without trashing an already trash character.
Yeah, 100%. So we gave him, we pretty much did exactly on live. And the thing with 6v6 is Roadhog translates pretty much 1-to-1 to 6v6 based on his live version, and it's fine. But I think that's also made him significantly worse in the 5v5 version. So first off, that doesn't work. Definitely not for 5v5 because it creates terrible interactions. So what can you do in terms of 5v5? Well, I think personally, as with everything, I think the lethal characters who kill you without warning from around a corner should be properly telegraphed. There's no reason why they shouldn't be telegraphed. Okay. So I don't have a specific example. I do have a clip of a mock-up, but realistically, it's a bit janky because telegraphing involves sound effects and visual effects. And
that's fine.
Let's be honest, you can't do that in the workshop. So first off, just to prove that telegraphing works, here's the Widow rework. So that is a glint when she's looking at you when she's scoped in, and a laser sight when she's fully charged, and then she can only scope in for 3 seconds. So pretty simple Widow rework. You kept all of the lethality, you kept the stuff from the first person that Widow wants to do, but you've removed some of the bad feelings of getting killed by the Widow. I think somebody else did this before us. It wasn't a direct copy of the idea, but I think it was inspired.
Yeah.
Anyway,
one of the things that Overwatch always does really well is like the sound, audio cues, visual cues, telling you about the lethality of what you're dealing with, and it's amazing. It's actually not even that great. Let's put it this way: it's not great until you don't have it, and then you realize how much you've relied on it in the past.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh,
that's janky as hell. Like, it's a laser. It's a literal laser on screen. That's not what we're implying. We're implying that this is a type of thing you can do, and then you can put more power in the neutral kit, right? Yeah. Like, you can make it so the Widow can do more stuff when people get on the hunt. Right. And this has actually killed the Widow, weirdly enough, in our code. Widow's just kind of dead because of it, because people react so fast to it compared to what they do otherwise.
I want to hear what you have to say then. So obviously giving more telegraph for hook, but I want to give first. You talked about the thing you gave for 66. I don't know if you have any ideas for 5v5. One of the two things that Six, Dirt, Apply, even myself, the whole 9 yards, a better form, more consistent form of mitigation was one of the concepts. And the one that you're going to be shocked here, mobility. Some form of combo or mobility that can actually allow the guy to take space. Because he's not the only. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, there's a reason, right? Like, listen, if you don't have mobility, you can't take space if you can't move while mitigating. Because the thing with vape is that you can technically move while you're vaping, but you can't take space while you're vaping without getting your face blown off.
Okay, so one of my concepts is trying to make abilities more aggressively focused, right? Vape is one of the things that you either use reactively or you just go into them and then you just turn around, you put your head on the ground, and vape out. It's pretty one-dimensional. So obviously wind up is, like, I'm sure everyone's talked about it. It's a very simple thing, right? You have a little animation, right? It swings a couple of times. It's loud. Everyone can hear it from around the corner. They know you're winding it up. You can hold it for like 3 seconds and then you can cancel it or throw the hook, right? So like 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off, maybe a bit of damage mitigation, maybe unstoppable or something like that, so you can walk around with it. A pretty simple low rank fix to feeling awful for getting hooked, right?
Sure.
That's basically what it is. It also helps with tank matchups, right? You can force a tank to continuously shield in order to stop getting hooked. Pretty simples. And it puts out a simulacrum of pressure, right? It's not real pressure. You don't have to respect it. But realistically, if that's winding, apart from at the very high ranks, people will have to respect it. And you could use this hook feature, right, the swing or whatever it is, to walk to new space, to exist in new places, other things like that.
Sure. So indirect mobility because there's an active threat during the action itself. Now, my problem with that is that you, again, is the what I like to say the Reinhardt effect, where Reinhardt can take space consistently because he can deny these interrupts, spending his mitigation ability, right? Roadhog would need something like that here. He would need the I saw a suggestion the other day with like hook functions like a javelin spin, almost like eating projectiles if you get it at a certain angle, right? Some way of like being able to maintain that threat during the action.
Yeah, some sort of thing like that would be perfect. My idea is to kind of like uncouple the damage mitigation and the can't be interrupted kind of like side of it from the breather, because the breather is the tuck your head in your ass and kind of like scuttle off kind of like move. Right, we can keep the breather as this sustain in an angle type thing, and allow Roadhog to do his pokey type stuff while saying, well, if you want to go in with a hook, right, you can just walk forward, right? Why don't you walk forward? Okay, well, they've walked forward a bit too far. They turn around to breathe, and they're gonna get caught out for that because there's no damage reduction and there's no immunity to stuns and other stuff like that, right? You can kind of like make it so that they want to go deep with the hook and that, in a way, would make it so that you have some kind of punishability to the aggression, in a way that you don't necessarily have now. Slight jumbling of resource in order to be able to do that. But I think that's a reasonable thing that could be done. Sure. The other thing is obviously we want to realistically give Roadhog some team-based mitigation. It is something that I think 5v5 demands, not necessarily definitely demands, but it definitely demands either initiation that your team can play off or resources for the rest of the team, in my opinion. Like, I really think that 5v5, in terms of tanking, needs one of the two, right? One of the two. Like, Sigma has a shield, but Roadhog really gives nothing. So my idea is to, instead of just a straight vape, right? Like, you just have a straight vape. Obviously, I've had the separate idea of giving away the vape. One thing that would work very well, the hook, is something that I don't really understand how Blizzard hasn't done yet, is a Molotov idea, right? You throw something to an area, they cannot stand in that area. You wind up hook, you get the people running out that area. A little bit of a setup kind of maneuver.
I don't know if you saw Cage's video.
With the breather.
He had something along those lines, kind of like a gas explosion that allows to either set up hooks, as you said, or at the very least allows for consistent pressure if you're not. Like, it is a cooldown. It's like Sojourn's Disruptor Shot, right? Like, you can use that very usefully for space control. So, yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, and then they have the right click when they come out of the cover. So the idea is you would have a choice of infinite mitigation with your breather and other stuff like that, or you could do something aggressive with that mitigation, right? Instead, you could huff half of it and throw half that out to do less damage.
So it's using your resource. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so basically you can't have everything, right? You could throw the canister around the corner, swing up your hook, go aggressive on an angle and try and get a hook, but then you're just out in nowhere, right? And that brings back the punishability that I think you want in order to really get this character into a good place.
For sure,
I definitely think the one-shot hook has to stay there. I mean, if it doesn't, we're just making Junker Queen at a certain point. They already kind of made better Hog. So
yeah, my thought was that like hook is fine as a one shot if it has extra steps, but I would also argue that like at the very least either A, he needs extra steps to the process, or B, it needs to be a much shorter range. Which, if you go with my mobility idea, then he has the capability of opening up angles, taking more space, and setting up those hooks, or maybe even both. Like something that, like, I think that having a one-shot hook on 25 meters just means that you can't really shift power into other aspects of his kit. That's kind of my argument.
Spilo. If you add mobility to every character in the game, there will be no character without mobility, and therefore we have lost design space.
Well, maybe. My argument is this, is that you cannot have a short-range tank that doesn't have the ability to move while mitigating consistently, or mobility. Like, if you look at, even Zarya, right, doesn't have a lot of mobility, doesn't need a lot of mobility necessarily, but she can move and mitigate. Ryan can move and mitigate. Malga obviously moves, right? Like that goes without saying. Even Ram can move and mitigate through his shield, right? Like his shield allows him to move from step A. And Sigma's the same thing. Sigma's the definition of no mobility, but can move and mitigate. So if we don't give Roadhog mobility, he needs to be able to move and mitigate at the same time, and he can't do that effectively right now.
Yeah, 100%. So the other idea for the vape cloud type effect, obviously you can make it a Molotov type effect to throw it out, or you can make it a slight healing with like a movement speed, right, for an area type thing.
Sure.
There's loads of different things you can do with these ideas, and really once you're throwing them out, it doesn't really matter because it is just a thing you can give to your team. But I think with some combination of this, making it like one or the other, you get your infinite heal, like the 300 health heal, or you get something else for the rest of your team. Just exactly the same they've done with Bull can really help him personally.
Yeah. Wouldn't Rel's hook idea do that? Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it functions like that whole javelin spin thing that I was talking about, at least if you aim it properly or time it properly, then yeah, sure, it could. Yeah, and it'd be interesting too, because you'd actually, sorry to interrupt, but you'd actually have to use your offensive tool to rotate, because you'd have to use your hook wind up to be actually get out of the choke, which is an interesting dynamic. Kind of goes into line with what you were saying, using your heal resource as a zoning tool offensively. So there's kind of like a cost benefit analysis. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an avenue you can go. And really, you're giving me the hard job because I shouldn't be doing the design for the bloody 5v5 mode where everything's harder.
And I'm also giving you I think the worst character in the game design-wise as well. So like, I'm giving you nothing.
I don't know. I feel like 5v5 is just so restricting on the types of design you can have, though. There's so many different things you can't have, especially in the tank role.
For tanks. Yeah.
It's just like this list of like, okay, you need the point presence, right? And you need the consistency of pressure, and you need like the pressure not to be incredibly sharp, and you need some sort of mitigation for counters and other things like that. It just seems like you're stacking up a list of things that you can't have in the video game to me. Whereas like you just move into the 6v6 mode and everything kind of like just gets evened out by the extra player is the truth. All the gaps in your pressure, all of the things you're missing, right? The whole go up like idea, right? If you have half a character in your game that can just go up, in 5v5 you've got a 50% chance of somebody not being able to do that. In 6v6 off the bat, you've got a 75% chance because you've got two people. And also, on top of that, you've got one extra person who might be willing to flex, right? And every single aspect of the game, I feel, is like that. It just ends up in a situation where you have to make the characters have a little bit of everything. And therefore, you can't have a character that doesn't have one of those things. And I think that's what makes design interesting to me.
Sure. Fair enough. I think that's been our big discussion point, is I've always valued, space literally, and you've valued space in terms of like a design perspective, right? Which makes total sense.
I want to make, we're making a hero-based shooter, right? Like, why are we doing this if we can't make the most like interesting and diverse type of heroes possible, right? What's the point otherwise? It's the most permissive, and don't get me wrong, Overwatch angle slop is definitely a type of video game you could create, right? Like, it's fine.
What do you mean we could create? We're here.
Yeah. This is the best version of 5v5 I think is possible to create from Blizzard. They've done incredible. But realistically, I don't want that to take away from another version of this type of genre we could have at the same time. And so, like, this is the canary in the coal mine of 6v6 really needs different things than 5v5 need, right?
Sure.
Roadhog is not better if he's made into a good 5v5 tank, if that is cutted over. There are things that the format needs, and probably something five seasons of no balance patches hasn't helped. But, you know,
yeah, I understand
one.
what you're saying, but I guess my point being, and this is why I wanted you to have you on, is that I think for anybody that played with versus Hog historically, or even who plays Hog in 6v6 now or plays into Hog, is it's like he's still a menace. Like he's still a huge problem, right? And based off of the design space that we talked about earlier, which is why I wanted your thoughts on like what we can do about that, whether it's because I think you had maybe different suggestions for each of those things. But they deal with the same root issues, right?
Yeah.
Being strictly selfish, inflexible, and so on.
Yeah, I think 6v6, you could say the selfishness is probably the biggest issue and the reason why people don't want to play against him the most. And then probably from the enemy's perspective, the lack of telegraphing is also one of the biggest problems that people have, especially at lower mid ranks. And I really care about lower mid ranks when I'm trying to come up with these.
I agree as well.
Yeah, when you talk to exclusively high ranks, I think a lot of the, I'm not saying that you do, I think a lot of the bottom of the game kind of like falls out. And just how the character feels just ends up not being brought up as often, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Six brought up, was it Six or was it Apply? I can't remember. Chat will have to remind me, was just how atrocious it feels to play into Roadhog, I think it was Apply, as a tank. If you're a low to mid rank player, especially like you don't know how to leverage your mobility maybe optimally, maybe you're not perfectly managing your cooldowns, maybe you haven't embraced the gospel of indirect value and you're like, I just want to kill this guy, right? And
also
that
just not pressing your buttons.
Right. And it's like that concept is like this something that I want to obviously empathize and sympathize with. You and I both spend a lot of time with the low to mid ranks coaching or whatever, and
I hope you Genji mains like tanking.
Yeah, it's a frustrating experience definitely to kind of be playing versus this character and be like, man, I don't have any interaction with him at all outside of don't get hooked, right? Whereas conversely, you know, you're playing like an Orisa versus Roadhog, you're like, oh man, like there is nothing but easy street here. And that is just, that's atrocious, right? And then again, even from the 66 format, like playing Ryan Roadhog, I mean, I have it because I was a main tank main, as I'm sure you know, in Overwatch 1, Winston, Reinhardt. And just seeing that other guy lock Roadhog and just my heart sinking to the bottom of my chest, you know, especially for a map like King's Row, I'm like, man, their guy is going to have like, I mean, dude, they're going to have Zarya, or they're going to have Diva, or they're going to have Sigma, and I've got this jackass, you know what I'm saying? He's going to get every hook denied by a shield, you know?
That's exactly why that's what we targeted, right? We said, what's the worst experience you can have from a Roadhog?
Exactly.
And what are the worst Roadhog comps? Okay, we'll just cover that weakness, right?
Right.
And we haven't taken necessarily anything away from Roadhog. I mean, we could take some of his healing away, we could make longer cooldowns, other stuff like that. But we've also we've chained him a little bit more to main. You see, he can't use that ability unless he's nearish his team, so he can't be entirely
right. At least
solo.
the sight line. At least the sight line.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Crucial, right?
It's another incentive to just like, I don't know, not be that guy, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I think both game modes have ways to do this. I think 5v5 you've got to be a bit more direct or accurate in the ways you do it, and it's a little bit harder to.
Sure.
But there's definitely workarounds for both game modes.
Sure,
It's not like it's a lost cause.
Okay, so I want to give you one more topic because I think you did such a hilariously good job about it, because I think you're 100% accurate, which is the tinfoil hat of old school Overwatch 1 development team basically sneaking DPS players to play tank through just the character's kit. Basically a giant
100%.
psyop to get DPS players to play tank. The irony being that you might as well just have another DPS player anyway.
No, it's fine. It wasn't a psyop until it was a psyop, right?
Sure.
They made a cool hero called Roadhog, and that was just a cool hero, and they didn't know what a tank was back in the day. Nobody did. So
That's true.
They made
That's
Roadhog, and then months and years came by, and they had a problem with queue times, and they were like, what can we do? We can just incentivize people into this role. And the trouble is they didn't do anything to the hero in order to ever make him good to play with or good to play against. And so everyone went into Roadhog and just made the rest of the tanks in the queue hate themselves.
Do you not think that, like, okay, maybe it wasn't a psyop here.
Yeah.
But surely they knew what they were doing when they gave him vape. And a one shot.
It's difficult. It seems like they never really captured the lightning in the bottle of Ryan Winston's Zarya Diva in that kind of like sharpness of design again. Obviously, I think they knew in a way what they were doing, making a more independent guy that could like. And what is tanking, right? Like nobody knew for like 3 or 4 years. Even the coaches didn't really know for a couple of years. So it's one of those where it's like, yeah, sure, but it's clearly meant for more DPS-y type characters. But
sure,
yeah,
sure. Okay.
I don't think it's invalid to make a tank for DPS type characters, right? I don't think it's invalid. I just
yeah,
don't think
yeah, for sure. I think
there's
blurring
very
lines
clear
is
sidesteps.
can be interesting. You know, I think obviously I'm not gonna say the Marvel Rivals word too much, but like I think having, for example, Mr. Fantastic as a design was a really interesting. Now Rivals is just terrible with their development beyond that, but like I looked at Mr. Fantastic, it was like immediately like, man, if this guy was in another game, I would love it. Like he just blurs the line of what a character can really do, and we've seen moments like that with like characters like Zenyatta, right? Like this guy doesn't have a lot of healing.
Exactly.
You have even tanks like Zarya that are clearly focused on utility, and other tanks that are more focused on engaging. And then you have, I mean, we can go on from there. There's a utility DPS and so on. And I think like, I mean, they could have even done more with Symmetra. I still think that Symmetra has immense potential as a more of a support focused DPS if they were ever to lean into that. So I don't think that the question
to do
is
anything with Symmetra in the workshop. It's just so hard.
I know. I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed, but maybe another discussion for another time. But I wish they would.
I think my like, I don't know, the pinhead right here for the difference between 5v5 and 66 tanking is I could imagine an RTS style character summoning bots down and just like being the bot guy who's just playing from a different perspective in 6v6, but that could never work in 5v5. I think that's the difference between the modes for me. I think that there is so much design space of cool things you could create just lost, sadly. And it creates a much more focused game, right? It does, but it's focused. It's not wide. True.
All right, Realth. Well, I appreciate your time, man. Shout out to you actually taking the time to do this. I know you had to kind of rework your schedule, but thank you so much for doing this. This is much better than reading a document like the Mercy one. So much better.
Absolutely fine.
So
1 second.
Please.
Here you go. We have a ranked ladder for our FSJQS Hero Rework mode up at the moment. It is up 3 days a week. You can get it in the description up there. It essentially queues you into the roles, and we have a prize reward out at the moment for our top of the leaderboard for the top 3 players.
Is that what you sent to me? And I said I posted in announcements. Is that the graphic? Yeah. So you can also join my Discord, !Discord, and you can get the link to Realth's Discord through my Discord. So plug for a plug, right? And then there's a really big fancy graphic and all that kind of stuff. So check the announcement channel on my Discord. You can get the invite there. And then obviously you can play from there. So it's in the !announcements channel in my Discord. You can see all the stuff that you need and go. You can leave my Discord afterwards. Join the real competitively focused
Support Sombra, Tank Venture. This is the way of the future. That's so fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of reworks in there that are really fun. I highly recommend you trying them out. So, all right, mate. I appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your evening.
All right, gorgeous.
All right,
Love
cheers,
you
brother.
as always.
Love you too,
Have a
man.
nice night.
Cheers. All right, that was Realth, coach, streamer, game critiquer extraordinaire. And we're going to finish off with some r/Roadhogmains, which I think will round this up nicely because we'll get some perspectives from people that play Roadhog in all ranks, not just the high rank players. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do a little prediction here. From what we've seen so far, Hogs want less inconsistency on their ability to take space and their ability to play around counters. Less reliant on their team. A lot of people don't like trap, but they love alt fire. A lot of people like the mechanical skill checks and the skill shot. So while we talked about we want more consistency with this ability to take space, that doesn't necessarily mean that we remove skill shots entirely, right? I mean, you look at a character like Ana. Is Ana inconsistent? Yeah, kind of. Like, she has lots of things that she can bring to the table that are consistent. And there's certain things like even Anti-Nade that should be relatively consistent, but that doesn't necessarily mean we need to take nerf Sleep Dart, put it on a 7-second cooldown, and make its hitbox bigger so it's consistent, right? There's a balance here, right? And I think that's one of the things I hope that I make clear here is when I'm asking for consistency with this ability to take space, I'm not asking for things like all skill shots to be removed, right? There's a spectrum of Widowmaker to Ashe, right? Is Ashe inconsistent off of you hitting shots and dynamites? Sure. Does that mean that Ashe is exclusively reliant on you hitting headshots to win? No. And I think that's kind of like the balance, the nuance here. Like, you guys know here, if anybody has been in my community for any point in time, there are certain things that we just have to be very thoughtful and put effort into. And I think a lot of times in today's, social media and society, there are only absolutes in terms of stuff. And I think if you're only focused on absolutes, you miss truth. Like truth is oftentimes a complicated thing. So, okay, let's take a look here. So, Diamond 5 tank main, and Hog used to be my go-to in 5v5. I think he needs more utility. Something that I felt Pigpen provided. It was a wonderful secondary tool that could be used in a multitude of ways. You can harass people behind shields. You could use it to secure a kill on tank using body blocking, making hooks easier to land when Hog Toss was still an option, but they got rid of it. Okay, so I'm gonna listen crucially. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this here. So I'm going to listen to the spirit of the change, but I'm not always going to agree with their takes. In the same way where I felt like the spirit of what people were suggesting to nerf Hog was good, but that we're missing the forest for the trees. Remember I said people that hate Hog have good intentions, but the concept needs to be we need to make Hog more flexible. On the flip side of things, Hog mains, I'm going to listen to the spirit of the change, but for my actual suggestions, I'm not going to endorse this. Like, for example, the spirit here is that we need more utility, but then we're defending Pigpen, which if you even look at the way that this person is describing it, you could use it to hit people behind shields. You could use it to secure a kill on a tank. That's kind of the same thing. We're abusing the person in front of me, and that's basically it. You're just abusing the tank. So it's not nearly as flexible. But the spirit of asking for more utility, more decisions to be made, I think is pretty consistently a common theme here. Okay. Now our beloved Hog is back in the hot seat again, constantly towing the line between too strong or too weak to feel like an intimidating, murderous bodyguard that he is. I'm actually going to say a hot take here. I don't think Hog is that oppressively overpowered. I think that's just maybe we should have said that earlier. I don't think Hog is oppressively overpowered right now. I don't think objectively he's oppressively overpowered. Like, we have win rate statistics here. The question is that because he is such a selfish character in many aspects, the second that he's even competent, people want to pick him, and he's very annoying to play as. The reason why powerful Hog is annoying is because powerful Hog means that he's picked a lot, and people don't want to play versus Hog at all. When Hog is bad, people don't rarely play him, and so then we don't have to deal with him. You understand what I'm saying? Hog is just awful to have as being even remotely decent, because then we see more of him. So when you have a weaker Hog, you don't like weaker Hog either. You just see him less. You see what I'm saying? Let me repeat. You don't like weaker Hog better. You just see him less, so he annoys you less. Does that make sense? So I think that's like the key thing. That's why people are there's always like a too strong or too weak. I actually don't think Roadhog is very feast or famine in that regard. I actually think Roadhog is like any other character where like he's going to be good, he's going to be great, or he's going to be bad. The problem is that when he feels even competent, you're like, dude, I hate this character so much. Orissa's the same way. Orissa's, okay. Roadhog should be lethal. It is his entire identity, but taking away tools and classifying them as abject failures and turning Hog to being a stat check like Holiday Break Hog. Malga is an incredibly poor choice to lay this character even off worse than pre-rework, the Pigpen rework. So yes, basically looking for utility, don't just break stats. Great stuff. Awesome. Roadhog is a unique tank compared to others. He's a character that works alone that sets him apart from others. He's a character that works alone that sets him apart from others. I think the concept is that he doesn't rely off of healing alone, but we've kind of already busted that myth. And I don't know how you would leverage that play style. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't feel like I fully thought it through. Okay, I like his one shot. I hate his perk choices. Interesting. What exactly don't you like with his perks? Boring, uncreative. Interesting. So we have two things that are complaining about a lack of utility or not being fully engaged with his kit. Let's keep going. Now, I'm going to be critical here. I'm not going to be, but we have to be respectful to the people that are putting their opinions out there, and I think that their takes are really important. So I appreciate everybody that was in this thread. Mythic skin. Hogmains since 2018. Make his damage go back down, but instead of giving Hog more damage, lower his spread just a little bit. And current spread, so he can have a little more consistency against squishies without needing to make him a gazillion damage and hurting tanks further. So basically lower damage, tighter spread for more consistent damage, but not abusing tanks up close. So more consistent damage, but higher spikes. That's the key word we love, consistent. Okay, cool. Before Take a Breather became a resource, the damage reduction starts having that back with a resource may be unbusted. It's going to have a 20% damage reduction once pressing the button, and the remaining 20% would only start once he actually starts vaping. A lot of Hog deaths happen before we can trigger the damage reduction. So in the action of vaping, he needs a damage reduction happening instantly. So again, more consistency of mitigation through Take a Breather. Leaving it in its current state, but more consistency. You guys noticing again a theme here. Pigpen versus secondary fire. Pigpen secondary fire is 100 times more fun, less annoying for enemies, and less cheesy. A tank getting 10,000 heals every match due to the perks was very, very silly and overall bad. Okay. I love Pigpen. It was a huge amount of threat in the same mind game that Junkrat can play by throwing it randomly to scare the backline of the threat of chain hook. I disagree. There's a lot of people in this subreddit I saw that like Pigpen. I think they're just so freaking desperate for another button to press. But I think Pigpen is one of the worst abilities in the entire game. It had zero flexibility. And there's definitely a lot of controversy. Some people can't decide if they want it or nothing. Okay. I'm not the best player. Doesn't matter. But my personal opinion is that Roadhog without the trap is a less dynamic character and become that kind of situation where if he can read damage breakpoints for his combo, he's busted. If he can, he's bad. The trap made it so that Roadhog would have a little bit more cushioning without being essentially useless. He was already more useful between his hook cooldowns, since the rework scrap gun was actually a pretty decent mid-fight weapon. I disagree. I think the rework scrap gun was objectively worse because his alt fire did significantly less medium pressure than his primary fire. And I'm not sure why people are defending it so much, because you could literally go in the practice range and see it. But again, you notice the spirit of this change here is that like people want choices. And I wanted, even if trap wasn't a very healthy dynamic or a very healthy cooldown from our perspective, as a Roadhog main, more choices, more dynamics, more thought was good. I think trap was great, but it was a failed experiment meant to make him more dynamic, but it made him a little more linear, simple, and unpredictable. I don't hate the idea of reworking him. Okay. One point about this is they say that the secondary fire is inconsistent. But true, that is true. The vision of Roadhog entirely revolves on the hook. Everything else can be changed or rework. I've come to the same conclusion. I think when people want to play Hog, like Sig said, they want the skill shot. They want hook. Maybe not in its current format, but they want hook. I love the perk they have speed boost while huffing. Sure. My low HP, better vape. I dislike how one-sided certain matchups can be, though. A big blob with no dodge or CC resist just can't play properly against half the cast. And it's really disheartening to play against, say, an Orisa that just never looks at anybody else because you're so easy to get value from. And I think the large community hates when the blob walks at them with functionally 1500 HP. I don't know why Pigpen trucks Hog players to think they're doing value, though. Any ideas? Because it's literally anything. Roadhog players have never had another button press in the entire history of the game, and they got an additional button to press. Just because you press it the same way every time doesn't mean that in theory you could use it another way. It's bad to use it that way, but at least it was something. Roadhog is best at a semi-independent range squishy pushing tank that can force an angle and consistently threaten or reposition one-shots in tank backline. Hook, as is mandatory for the character to be unique in a threat, and a complete hook mechanic reworks would conceptually kill the character. There's already a plethora of brawl, hybrid-esque tanks, and having a few mainly just Sigma and Hog that just want to kite, look for openings rather than running it down. Sure. Yeah, this is a good point here, where it's like, if we were going to have another short-range character, my goodness gracious, we have so many of them already. Now, I do know that the developers have kind of leaned more into closer range tanks in Overwatch 2. I think those that have been more dive-focused have been more successes, and those that have not have been more failures. But I understand 100% where this is coming from. The problem being is, of course, that Hook fundamentally wants you to pull people close to you. So then there's this real question in a 5v5 format: how do you pull somebody close to you if you can't finish them off all close? So what I would like to look for is having Hog function more like a Junker Queen, where he is in that hybrid, I don't necessarily want you to be in my face, but if I can soften you up first, I'm okay with that. And I think maybe his weapon can be a perfect implementation of that. So I think this is some very good thoughts here. This is the best design of Hog, at least since the release of Overwatch 2. Yeah, sure. I mean, having vape on a resource is annoying, but it means that it is a more consistent form of mitigation than vape on a cooldown. And we have all fire. Breather means meter means it's less punishing the play into stuns. And can allow you to be a bit more proactive. Sure. Right click gives you much needed pressure versus tanks without hooks. You aren't liable to being insta-rushed without hook. Consistency, right? It's a good skill index where the previous Hog was more of a hook bot that couldn't appreciate doing anything without hook except run around and hold breather versus the majority of the cast. Sure. I actually think that's probably correct. I think he's stronger than he should be right now, but from a design perspective, I do feel like the reversion was a good step. I think that like there is no such thing as all bad or all good here. Hog's worst features are his relatively subpar perks and bad primary fire. Now, the earlier take was that perks are boring and maybe the primary fire does too much damage, but it has too much spread. Scrap hook is useless at anything that isn't relatively immobile tank with low armor. Your gun sucks into armor. And the new secondary miner can be situationally very powerful, but also a massive hindrance on certain maps against certain characters. You're forced to pick scrap hook sometimes because it's actively bad rather than being actually useful. It isn't actively bad. Gotcha. I'm curious to what his take is on the secondary fire. I would love for this person to elaborate. So he's talking about the minor perks here, the one that tightens the spread. And so he's saying that it's actually bad in certain situations, and that's going to take an expert that I haven't played around with that perk enough to know. Okay, pull perk is okay. I just think it's bad. I think it's obviously in comparison to speed is better. Primary fire is almost useless as versus squishies beyond 2 to 3 meters. Though fortunately the 2 times headshot multiplier makes it usable. The best part about previous Hog was the lack of dead zone due to the rework primary fire. That's actually true. I didn't like the previous implementation, but there was a dead zone. There was a dead zone, but the dead zone was beyond a certain range. So from 0 to 10, the previous primary fire probably felt a lot better. Whereas a current primary fire feels really good up close, really good medium, and then there's an awkward gray zone. But it's important with what this person is saying is that we're looking for more of a medium hybrid. And so that's ironically why the old iteration of Hog didn't work, is because the dead zone was beyond 15 meters. And that's where we would want Roadhog to start. You get what I'm saying? I'm going to start skimming here just a little bit. Big takes so far. We want utility. We want something to bring to the table. The Pigpen defenders like it because it on paper gave them another option. More consistency, ways of counterplaying mitigation, and little tweaks to his gun. But the big thing is people like Hook. Shocker, right? He controls space with fear. You guys want to see something funny? Check this out. Way back in the day. This is when it came right back in. So there you go. All right, just a humble plat Hog player. For overall, I think Pigpen took 1 step forward and 2 steps back because it just created additional problems that now we're back to square one. I want them to look at the healing perks and double down on that while giving Pigpen back and some reasonable poke damage, removing as a one-shot. If we just can't have the one-shot identity because it's a nightmare to work on, and a full rear with combined ideas would be the best way forward. I mean, this is a great thought. See, this is why we said shut the frick up about you're a humble plat Hog player. These are some really good thoughts and very well communicated. Nice. Love that. You're 100%. I definitely agree, and I like the way that you communicate that as well, where the concept of Pigpen makes sense. One shot just feels way too much of a nightmare to work around, and that we should just go into any other direction. Yeah, very, very thoughtful and unique as well. Seems like a lot of people are like either hating on Pigpen or begging for some form of utility. And I want to apologize. Every time we do things like this, I really want to apologize that I'm not giving everybody the same amount of time that I'm sure that they deserve, because a lot of you guys I'm sure put a lot of thought into it, and if this was more of a rework project, I would be open to these concepts. It's just not what we're doing today. So thank you guys so much for putting the time into this. And also, I hope that just because I don't read it, that it's not a waste of time. Thinking about applying yourself to something like this, even if it's never gets appreciated, is still worth knowing. Good for you. You know, I mean, I do it all the time. Nobody freaking cares about my stuff half the time, but it's still satisfying. Definitely some criticisms about the perks not being particularly thoughtful. And my counterpoint to that is that we've always predicted that Roadhog's perk set would always be awkward because it feels so incredibly uncomfortable to know what to buff, right? There's nothing about Roadhog that you're going to love. You're gonna have to choose your poison here. Okay, it seems like utility, keep the hook, controversy on Pigpen because people like utility, controversy on the one shot because people like the lethality. Yeah, I hope you guys, and if you guys want more, there's a lot of really well thought out comments in here, clearly. So it's a shame, but if you guys are looking for more, give them a shout. r/Roadhogmains. Thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, I hope if nothing else, so let's kind of wrap this up here. Here's where we're at. Roadhogmains like the skill shots. They like the skill checks. And if you aren't a Roadhog main and you do play Roadhog, that's probably what you like too. I know that's what I like. I actually have more hours in Roadhog than I'd like to admit. It's probably like my 10th most played character, which is probably a lot higher than you guys would have guessed. Roadhog is fun. It's fun. There's certain aspects that are fun. The things that are uncontroversially hated for the most part are things like the inconsistency, as we talked about from the very start. The inconsistency of matchups, the inconsistency of perk value, the inconsistency of your hook and even your alt fire and how it functions, the inconsistency of the utility that he once had with Pigpen and then sometimes it just wouldn't do anything. And so we want consistency, we want utility, we want some flexibility within the character. And if we're able to open up those avenues of pressure, then maybe we can start to address some of the pain points with Roadhog. But until we can do that, I don't think that we can really have a discussion. And I think that that's why it's really important for us to be respectful of Roadhogmains, because trashing the character only removes the visibility of the character's problems. It doesn't actually address the problems. And, you know, whether that's through mobility or just the ability to consistently mitigate while taking space, kind of like one of Realth's suggestions, I think that we have to kind of talk about that. So, but yeah, I hope that if nothing else, as it was with Sombra, as it was with Mercy, I hope that we can see the consistency of, you'd be surprised at how much you agree with Roadhogmains. And vice versa. I think everyone's kind of on a relatively same page. And yeah, that's all good to hear.